Okay, good morning everyone and welcome to East Devon District Council's Housing Review Board meeting on Thursday the 31st of July 2025. I am your chair, Councillor Sarah Chamberlain, and the meeting is being recorded and is live on the Council's YouTube channel. Can I remind everyone present to please use a microphone or your comments will not be heard or recorded. Health and safety announcement. There is no fire alarm drill anticipated today. If the alarm sounds, please leave the building through the nearest fire exit by following the green running man signs above the doors. Please make your way to the rear of the car park and wait for the organiser of the meeting to tell you when it is safe to return. This is a smoke-free building. If you wish to smoke, there is a smoking shelter at the rear of the car park alongside the building. Toilets are available in the stairwell of the building at each floor landing, and water is available in reception. Finally, please make sure all phones are either muted or switched off. Before we begin, I would like to welcome newly co-opted independent community representative member Wang Tian. Is that pronounced correctly? Excellent. Welcome to the board. And I would also like to welcome our interested tenant, Richard Sidford, I believe. Welcome to the meeting. Who's attending today with a view to joining the board later on in the year. So thank you very much for coming. We will now do a roll call of committee members here present and declarations of interest. Please can you unmute your microphone when you hear your name and confirm by saying present and declare any interests that you may have. Please state your declaration, including which agenda item your declaration relates to, state what exactly the interest is and the specific type of interest that you are declaring. When you have confirmed you are present and declared any interest that you may have, please mute your microphone again. I will now hand over to Alethea, please.
Okay, so Councillor Sarah Chamberlain.
Present declaration would be that I work for Exeter City Council and Housing.
Okay, so can you just state which, so that's an FX NRI. You can just state which type, yeah.
FX NRI?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Chris Burhop.
Present and no declaration, thank you.
Councillor Tim Dumper.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Melanie Martin. Oh, so Chris, you can't do that. Have you logged in? You should be able to log in with your card.
Apologies for that. Yeah, present, no declarations.
Councillor Helen Parr.
Present, no declarations.
Councillor Simon Smith.
Present, but no declarations.
Rob Robinson.
Present, no declarations.
Rachel Brown.
Present, declarations at this street scene, if that's listed anywhere here, if we could talk about Sidford street scene.
So what's your declaration though, sorry?
Just see if you've got any conflicts of interest.
Right, that's where we get confused.
I don't think you do.
But if we have something that we want to... Not yet. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Rosie Dale.
Present, no declaration of interest.
Thank you. And Wang Tian.
Present, no declaration of interest. Thank you.
Thank you. So Chair, we are quorate today.
Thank you very much. Are there any other councillors in the meeting who would like to declare an interest in any of the items listed on the agenda that may affect the ability to remain in the meeting? Councillor Gazzard?
Morning, Chair. Yes, I'd like to declare an FX NRI. I am a tenant of East Devon District Council and I've got an interest, obviously, in every item. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. Any other councillors in the meeting? No? Excellent, thank you. So moving on to agenda item 1, this is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 24th of April 2025. This is on pages 3 to 8. Does anyone have any comments on the set of minutes from the 24th of April 2025? No? No comments? Everybody happy for me to sign the minutes? Yes? Excellent. 30th today? Excellent. Brilliant. Agenda item 2 is apologies. So far, I'll go over to Alethea.
Councillor Kim Bloxham, Councillor Aurora Bailey and Sarah Clark.
Thank you, Alethea. Councillor Martin?
I've had apologies for Jenny Brown and Dan Wilson.
Jenny Brown and Dan Watson. Excellent. Thank you very much. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. This has already been done in the roll call. Agenda item 4, public speaking. I don't believe we've had any, none at this time. Agenda item 5 is matters of urgency. There are none. Agenda item 6 is confidential exempt items. There is one confidential exempt item at the end. And just before we come on to agenda item 7, which is the forward plan, I'd like to hand over to Councillor Ledger, please.
Thanks very much, Chair, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. The members of the board heard yesterday a briefing, but just for the benefit of members in the room and those watching, I want to announce our regulatory judgment that we've received. It was under embargo up until yesterday. It's now been released. The way that the regulator works is that we get a judgment on a score from C1 to C4. C1 meaning that everything is absolutely fine, everything is really good. C4 is that they've got grave concerns. So after that 12-week process, we've come out with a C2. Now, what that means is, to put it into context, only 21 organisations so far to date have received a C2 or above. So that very much puts us and shows us in a good light. The vast majority of organisations are receiving C3s at the moment. We really need to kind of strive now for a C1, and that's the work that the officers are going to be taking away and moving on to. So I really just need to take this moment to thank all the officers in the room and all of the frontline officers who have helped us get to this area. The members of the board for their scrutiny and the work and their involvement with the regulator. I think we should all be really, really proud of what you've all managed to achieve. I think we know that there's still work to improve, but with this judgment, it shows that we're on the right path, and we now, hopefully, with the agenda items on today's agenda, we're going to continue down that path and go from strength to strength. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ledger, and yeah, well done, everyone. So that takes us on then to agenda item 7, which is the forward plan. This can be found on pages 9 to 10. I'm going to hand over to Andy King, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, in front of you, you've got the Housing Review Board forward plan. Primarily, you will see that today, you would have seen from the agenda as well, is a very busy agenda. Don't apologise, because there's lots of work going on, so that's why so much is coming forward. But lots for us to get through today, and lots of work, or the outcome of work of the officers in front of you. As always, we are more than happy to receive requests, feedback, thoughts from the board on anything that you want to see coming up in the future 3 meetings of the financial year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I'm going to go outside committee for one question. If there is any outside of committee, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Earlier at the full council meeting, I put a motion about posties, and I wonder if we can look into that within our own in-house properties about letterboxes, Also, is it possible sometime, when I was out delivering leaflets, I realised in Honiton, I don't know if it's the same right across our district, what you use to get in our blocks of flats is the trade button, and the trade button automatically cuts out at 12 o'clock. So if you're a minute past 12 o'clock, you can't get in. Why 12 o'clock? Does it have to be 12 o'clock, or can it be changed a bit later? Because so many things, like we get delivered by postal service, tends to run later now than it used to. And you can very easily, I mean, I've been there coming to some of these flats, and they're trying to shove the letters in the gap in the electronic door because they've missed the 12 o'clock deadline. Is there any way we can change that so that it gives them more time to deliver?
Sorry. I don't know if Andy would like to answer that, but I know from experience myself that trades are normally set on specific times depending on the dependency of that block, whether it be sheltered accommodation or various things. But I will hand you over to Andrew King.
Yeah, no, thank you. They're all good points. It's a complex thing. Like you say, we live in a world now where your post doesn't come at before 7 a.m. or, you know, you don't get first and second post. But we also have to think about the security of our buildings as well. So it's balancing that, because actually in a lot of areas, you know, I know I've had my post come through the door at 5 p.m. before. And we're in an online shopping world and all of those things. So we definitely take it into consideration. And it's something that's been raised before. So happy to take it forward with the team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to take questions from outside first. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. It's more a comment. I don't know if this is the right place to do it or not, but training for new members around the table, and it's even learning how to use the microphones and things like that. I just wonder, it was been promised several times, I just wonder, are we doing that now or not? And if we're not, can we ensure that we are enabling them to, because it's quite complicated, some of it. So I just wondered if it should be on this or something else.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. There was actually training, I believe, 1 to 2 weeks ago for new members, and many attended. But thank you very much for raising it. No more questions from outside committee, so we'll come into committee now. Rachel Brown.
Hi. I'm not sure if I can comment on the trade button, but yes, some of our buildings, they have extended it to 3 o'clock, so there is the option. In Sidford, street scene, we've waited, I think they've waited about 10 years, and finally they arrived and they cut down one tree they sorted, which was growing into people's windows. And unless we're right there with them watching everything they're doing, everything else is still not been touched. They said they were coming back the next day and have never come. One other point is parking in Orchard Close is absolutely horrendous. We've got cars that have just been dumped there.
Rachel, have you got any comments on the forward plan section?
Okay, so this is where I'm not too clear
That's
on our
absolutely
training or when
fine.
we're meant to comment on this.
No, that's absolutely fine. And I think if there's comments on various bits like that, you could send them
Yeah,
in.
we've been doing that.
Yeah, send that into
I
the
think
officers.
it's getting
and
a little
they'll-
clearer when we can participate.
Yeah,
in the
absolutely.
meeting.
So in this section now we're on the forward plan. So it would be anything around the forward plan that we've got at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Anybody else in committee? Councillor Burhart.
So just on that subject, Chair, I think newer members, particularly co-opted tenant members, benefited greatly from the brief training that we had with Simon a couple of weeks ago. And are there any plans for some more? Because I think you know, we probably need a little bit more before the next meeting, maybe a couple more sessions. You know, that would being a great example of when a committee member can raise particular subjects. This is actually a point in time where we can look at putting subjects onto the future committees, not for raising it in this particular committee for today. That's the point of the forward plan. So just maybe we can bear that in mind. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Councillor Belton. I'm sure, absolutely, we can put some more training in place for that and then to help anyone. And if anybody, outside of the meeting or does struggle with anything like that, then please reach out and email or, and we can definitely try and sort something out for you. Thank you. So no other comments or questions from anybody? Yep, Councillor Martin, please.
Yeah, just on that same subject, I really appreciate that getting everybody together at a time that works for everybody is very difficult. Some of us can't do that training in the allocated time because it was in the working day. So if anything if there could be training at different times so we could all be involved, that would be really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Or the option maybe of recording it, which we can all do now on Teams. Yeah. Thank you very much, Councillor Martin. Good point. So if we have no more questions or comments from anybody, do we have, I don't think this is just to note, isn't it? We don't have a recommendation on this one. No. So that's great. Thank you ever so much. So that will move us on then to agenda item 8, which is staffing update, which can be found on pages 11 to 13. This is a staffing update from Andrew King, Assistant Director for Housing and Regulatory Services.
Normally I apologise in advance that you're going to hear my voice all day, but actually this is the last time. So the rest of the papers are presented by others. So yeah, in front of you, you've got your staffing and recruitment paper. This outlines the significant recruitment activities that are happening across housing, particularly across property and assets. I'm sure members will recall previous conversations where we've talked about roles that we've been holding whilst we recruited to our corporate lead for property and assets, which of course we did, and we introduced Nathan, I think he was on week 2 at the last meeting. So you see some of that coming to fruition in here. I would like to take the opportunity, I've noted in there that Les Joint left us in June. Les was with us on an interim basis, and as we're all aware, took on some huge responsibilities and helped steer that ship for some time. So just wanted to acknowledge and thank Les for his time. You'll also see in there that we have recruited a 6-month fixed-term contract to our housing performance lead role. So Tanya Trayland starts with us on Monday, the 4th of August, and initially we'll be primarily focusing on the housing complaints and the performance in that area and the work that we're doing. There'll be some more on the recruitment in property and assets when we get to the performance report for P&A. I know Nathan's going to talk into that a little bit more as well. But of course, we are open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So we'll go to outside committee first. Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondered, do housing deal with their own complaints, or is it done by corporate and then sort of passed down? So I always believe if you're involved in it and your department's getting the complaints, then at the end of the day, it's much easier to deal with it because you know what you're talking about. And obviously other people in the office can hear it. I just wonder who actually deals with their complaints, please.
Thanks, Councillor. Sorry, through you, Chair.
Off you go.
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. Complaints, all complaints across the council are administered via our corporate complaints team, but the review and investigation into those complaints is done by the individual department. So any complaint about housing comes through to housing, then there's a sign-off process that's involved, and I personally see every stage 2 complaint response that comes through. I'm not saying that the process we use is perfect, but we've done some work on that at the moment to try and address the performance. We'll continue to look at how it's working and the best ways to manage that moving forward.
Thank you, Chair. And can I just ask also, how many positions are we looking to fill in total now? Because I know there's several different ones in there spread out, but how many positions in total are we looking to fill?
Nathan or Andrew? Nathan.
Yeah, so in total we need to take, so this is just within property and assets, from 22 FTEs up to 37, and I'll cover that more off when I go through my performance presentation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Heath, please.
Use that one, shall I?
Not logged in.
Shall I use this one then? That's fine, isn't it? It's fair to say that earlier this year, regarding social housing in Beer, I had considerable issues with poor communication from housing, but I'm very pleased to see that in the last month or two that's improved a lot, and I'm very, very keen that that is maintained, and I think it will be with the change of staffing and the increase in staffing. So I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, the change and the improvements in that. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Heath. That's lovely and positive to hear. Next we have... Next, did you write down? No, I haven't. Oh, Councillor Goodman.
Thank you. Just a brief one. When we talk about recruiting staff, is this all within the current budget, or will extra budget be required?
So sorry, through you, Chair. Breaking all the rules. So yes, the majority of that recruitment is through the existing budget. We were holding circa 12 FTEs on the budget sheet. Nathan will speak for a little bit more in the performance report about some of the additional resource that we're looking at bringing in, particularly in the planned works area. You know, we've talked about the need to invest and increase the works, but to do that, we need people to oversee those works and the capital and how we do that through our capital programme. But Nathan will speak in a bit more detail about that later on. Thank you.
Yeah, Catherine, please.
Sorry, just to clarify though, that is still all within the financial envelope. Just to be really clear, this is not additional spend.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ledger, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. I see this it's like the last piece of the puzzle that we've been trying to do when we've been moving this kind of change and this culture programme through all of housing. And it's fantastic to see that we're now at that position. I think members will see from last night when we had the financial monitoring report for Q1, which showed our outturn. We didn't spend all of the capital funds, so the planned works, and I might be stealing some of what Nathan's going to be saying later, but with regards to planned works, we haven't managed to complete all of the works necessary. So we need that additional capacity within the team so that we can ensure that we're spending the budget and we're getting the houses to where they need to be.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ledger. Is that it from outside of committee? Councillor Gazzard.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Yes, a question to Andy. More and more tenants are getting these phone calls from these companies that are asking, are you happy with your works, or are you having repairs? The disturbing thing is that they know which authority you are renting from, and they know your name. I did speak to Andy at the last meeting about this. Is there anybody that is looking into it? Because it's getting quite concerning for residents that they're getting these calls and they seem to know everything from where they live, how long they've been in the property. And I'm sure it's not East Devon District Council that are selling our addresses on, or residents' addresses on, but it seems to be on the increase. I've had quite a few residents that have contacted me, and I said I would raise it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. I believe we've spoken about this before, but Andrew, did you want to say something? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I completely agree, Councillor Gazzard. It's a problem. It's a national issue. As you say, absolutely not. Are we giving those details of our tenants? This information, it's third-party information that these organisations purchase. A lot of it's very out of date. It's coming from all sorts of different sources, whether it's open electoral rolls, people who've not gone on privately, old phone books, you name it, they'll get it from anywhere. We've put some information out in our newsletters in the past, and I think it will be a rolling thing that we remind our tenants of, you know, they're absolutely within their rights. It's a legal right if someone feels that they've got a legitimate disrepair claim against their landlord. But I will always advocate that to do that through a reputable, if that's the route you're going to go down, then do it through a reputable solicitor, not through one of these fishing companies. I don't think it's wise. But yeah, point well made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we come inside to committee now. Committee members. Yeah, Rosie?
Can I ask about recruitment in the complaints department? Because as I understand it, there's only one person, maybe with a part-time help. And are there any plans to increase that?
Thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, so actually within housing, we have 2 full-time members of staff who work on complaints. So in slightly different roles. So one is more on the administration or the complaint side, one is more on the investigation side. And then we've brought in, as I say, the housing performance lead, who's also working on the complaint side as well, and taking on some of those larger, more complex cases where we need to pull in your multiple streams and departments and things to actually make sure there's a bit of case management around that. And yeah, looking at how we do that. But resource-wise, we've got the resource now. It's about how we managing it, if that makes sense.
Thank you. Any other questions from committee? Rob?
Again, looking at recruitment, so the positions that are needed, are they being filled at the moment by our own staff, or are they being agency staff?
Andrew?
No agency staff in any of those roles. We, as I mentioned earlier, Les Joint, who was here on an interim agency agreement, but other than that, no. So it's a mixture of some of these roles are to pick up additional work that we're now planning to do within our capital programme. Some of it has been picked up by other staff. We've had a lot of goodwill from team members who've carried on extra responsibilities. Yeah, I think I mentioned in the report, for example, our heating compliance. We've been very lucky that another member of the compliance team has the skills and ability to have overseen that and has been doing that for us, but we have also now recruited to that role. So things move quickly. So even some of the roles in here that we're talking about, we've actually now appointed, and we've got new members sat upstairs going through their induction now, which is brilliant. But yeah, there's definitely a capacity, and we know that there's been a capacity concern. Again, I want to steal Nathan's thunder because I know he's going to talk a bit about that later and what that's meant for us and what that means moving forward. But yeah, lots of people have worked very hard covering some of those gaps.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowerholt.
Thanks. Just on that, an extension of that, I guess, I mean, the report refers to particular vacancies in the surveying department. Is it right to assume that we've seen a bit of a bottleneck in surveys and the throughput of the surveying department? And can we now expect that bottleneck to be widened and the throughput of bigger projects to be accelerated?
Andrew?
I'm going to give a really short answer, which is yes and yes. And I'm only giving a short answer because I've seen Nathan's presentation for later. So he will talk into that. But yes, ultimately, we have seen that bottleneck. And yes, ultimately, the recruitment will help widen said bottleneck.
Councillor Dumper, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to ask, I wanted to look under the bonnet a little bit, as it were, here, as a personnel man myself. We've got a list of the what's being recruited for here. Are there any other positions which, had you got resources, you might like to fill that can't actually come here because the resource isn't available to recruit them?
Andrew?
I think, just make sure I've understood is the question, are there roles that in an ideal world I'd like to have, but we don't have the resource? On a genuine level, I would say no, actually. I think the plans that we've got are strong. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't mean it. Of course, in an ideal world, I could double the staffing and double the work. Ideally, I'd double the budget, you know, all of those things. But actually, I think for the stock size that we've got and for the service that we're aiming to deliver, this is a really strong and sensible way forward.
I wasn't inviting you to Empire Build or anything like that.
Thank you for confirming that, Councillor Dunfer. No more questions from anybody? So thank you very much. This is just to note then, no recommendation to vote on this one. So that moves us on then to agenda item 9. This is the finance report, which can be found on pages 14 to 21. I'm going to go over to Rob Ward, housing accountant, to present the report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just on the initial point we were talking about earlier around training, I was at the meeting 2 weeks ago. It's kind of, I didn't give an overall, this is the way HRA finance works, but in sort of the 5 to 10 minutes, it wasn't overly easy. And some of the questions kind of, bamboozled me because it's difficult to know what level to put it at, and in 5 to 10 minutes get over what I wanted to get over. So I will be proposing to do a separate finance session, so anyone who wants to come on for finance can come along. So I'll get Elise to send that out in due course.
Rob,
Hello.
could you possibly just move your microphone slightly
Oh, of course,
closer
yeah.
for you? Thank you very much.
Hello? Come this way. Right. Monitoring report. I think everyone probably has, well, most people in the room have seen this because it was in last night's Cabinet report. So I won't spend a huge amount of time going through it and just effectively pause for questions afterwards. In terms of the outturn for 24-25, as you'll see, there's no kind of new information, particularly the forecasts that we were producing previously were relatively materially the same as where we outturned to, in effect. I suppose the only point that was sort of slightly different was capital, and that we were significantly under where we expected to be, which obviously meant good from the perspective of new borrowing and interest charges, but obviously not getting the work done for the houses is the bad side to that. So happy from finance, not from a stock perspective. So unless anyone's got any questions on the prior year, which seems like a no, I'll move on to the Q1, where we are with that. So in terms of where we are for Q1, we're obviously, Q1's difficult to predict a forecasted outturn. What we can do is look at the kind of major areas of income expenditure. So for example, the rentals, all that kind of thing, make sure that we're forecasting and doing a bit of stress testing to make sure that we're going to be there or thereabouts on the budget. We've done that, so there's nothing to actually bring to members that we're concerned about. Obviously, we'll be doing monthly reports going forward, and we'll be monitoring everything. Similarly, expenditure. There are no particular issues in expenditure that are there either. Everything is materially within budget. I won't talk too much about capital because obviously, again, we don't want to steal thunder away from Nathan because we're talking a lot about the capital, how things are being moved on and progressed and sort of restructured. One thing I will sort of say is within Nathan's presentation, we are moving to a more, especially with things like the plan teams, more of a kind of capitalised approach to staffing costs, which we are obviously allowed to do. The only problem with that, and one of the main reasons we haven't done it previously, is it's slightly more onerous on the officers in that they've got to record their time, so it goes to the appropriate projects on which they're working. So that's just something that's in the pipeline. One thing we have added and will be there constantly is a borrowing table. So one specific councillor who always asks the question will have it there, and my memory will not be tested and fail. I'm not looking at anyone in particular. Other than that, I am done and open to questions.
Thank you very much, Rob. So we'll go outside of committee first. Does anyone have any questions? No, oh, this is good. Look at this, look, excellent. So we'll come straight into committee. Do we have any questions from inside? Councillor Burhart, thank you.
First of all, on the outturn 24-25, 24-25, it's fair to say was a tumultuous year for the housing revenue account, and I'd just like to congratulate actually the team on regaining control, coming in with a result which is actually better than the rebudgeted result was. So we've actually added back to our reserves at a more accelerated rate than we had predicted. So that's to be congratulated. And well done on that. In terms of borrowing, yes, we're looking at current borrowing of £92.5 million, which is a staggering amount of money when you say it like that. But in terms of 4,200 houses, actually, per house, it's not a huge amount, and shows that we do have some capacity for extending that. Can I just ask you about the table on page 20, please, which is the 25-26 projected, and it says there's £18.4 million of movement using internally funded general fund. So can you just sort of talk us through that in layman's terms, if you could, please? Yeah.
Yes, I can. It's difficult to kind of predict where the funding will be coming from, because it's essentially a Treasury management decision as opposed to it being a HRA decision. At the moment, we are being funded by the general fund, so this is where HRA is a completely separate entity. I'm sorry, I'm looking at you again doing the thing which we did at the meeting. But so it's a separate entity, so it's completely ring-fenced, so we can either borrow from effectively the Treasury stocks and the Treasury management we have in the general fund of the rest of the council, or we can go out to the PWLB. The timing of that will effectively depend on where we think interest rates are going to go, obviously the levels of cash reserves that we have and investments in the general fund and council itself. So the assumption is that effectively what we've kind of crystallised from 24-25 will be borrowed externally, so we'll go to the PWLB. At the moment, the theory is we take a relatively short-term view for about a year, because that's what we're being told by our Treasury management consultants, that interest rates will be going down slightly. So if we do it short term, then borrow again, we should get better rates. And similarly with the 18, it will be a case of working out where interest rates are going and what we want to do. And the one thing we do need to keep into account, bear in mind, is the HRA kind of benefit that we get at the moment from the PWLB, whether that's going to stay, how long for. So all these things will be the Treasury management decision of where actually it sits. But it will be borrowing to the HRA, just not sure exactly where.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from Councillor Martin?
It's not a question as such, Chair. When we've had a finance presentation before, when Simon Davey used to do it, I did ask if we could have it up on a screen, because, I mean, I've got it in front of me right now, but sometimes it can move through quite quickly and you can get lost. And I know that not everybody here has got it on their screen. So I think, especially as well when somebody's behind you and it's not crystal clear sound, it would be really good to have it in front of us on a screen and we can see where we're at as the discussion progresses. It's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Martin. Any other comments or questions from inside committee? No? Okay, so this has... Oh, Rob, sorry.
I just wanted to say on the front of the, when you look at the borrowing, exactly like Councillor Burhoff was saying there, it does look like a scary number. Just to kind of put it into perspective, the actual vacant possession value of all of our stock is 800 million. And on an existing use social value basis, it's just shy of 300. So that kind of puts into account how much borrowing we've got versus the value of our stock. Just wanted to add that.
Thank you very much, Rob. Yeah, Rob?
You did say million, didn't you?
Yeah. Unfortunately so. No more questions. So we have a recommendation on this one. I will go over.
So the recommendation for this report is that the Housing Review Board considers and recommends to Cabinet the outturn position for 2024-25, including the implications and proposals relating to the balances and reserves held by the Council. And secondly, that the Housing Review Board notes the year-to-year date Housing Review Board account position to Q1 2025.
Thank you very much. Do we need to vote on this one? Yes. Everybody happy to vote on the recommendation? All those that would like to approve the recommendation? Sorry, didn't get that at all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To approve, all those who are against, and all those who wish to abstain. So we have 5. Thank you. Sorry, 6. I'm so sorry. 7. That's 8. That's 7's me as well. So sorry. Councillor Demper.
Yeah, can I just say, I'm not sure all the independent members realised they had a vote there.
Can we just vote? Can we just vote again? You are voting whether you agree with the recommendation that the committee moves the report to cabinet, whether you agree with the figures or not. If you agree with it, you put your hand up. If you don't, then obviously you don't vote. And if you abstain, then you can abstain, which is not expressing expressing your vote either way. Okay, so if we go to a vote again for that.
Yeah, just before we go to this, so everybody on the committee has a vote except for Richard, as you've not been co-opted into the board yet, but everybody else sat here does have a vote, okay? So if you'd like to vote, if you are in approval of this recommendation, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's not that clear to me, so I'm not 100% sure. So you can abstain.
Do you abstain? That's fine. Absolutely, that's fine. Thank you very much. So that's been carried. So moving on then to agenda item 10. This is review of the antisocial behaviour policy, which can be found on pages 22 to 44. This is to be presented by Darren Hicks, Tenancy Services Manager, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, everyone. I hope you had a chance to read the ASB policy and the report summary. As you're probably aware, it's a statutory responsibility of landlords to have a fit-for-purpose ASB policy. The policy sets out how we deal with ASB and outlines our partnership approach throughout the district. The main changes to the policy are detailed in the report summary and at the top of the policy itself. The main changes are inclusion of information on our public sector equality duties, the provision of an increasing proactive approach to our estate inspections and tenancy visits, and behaviours not treated as ASB. The policy went out to consultation. We had 3 ASB focus groups, one in Sidmouth, one in Honiton, and one in Exmouth. I'm also underwent a commonplace survey. So I'm open to any questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. So, first of all, outside committee, do we have any questions? Yes, Councillor Westerman, please.
Yes, I'm just interested to know how many ASBOs you serve.
That are no longer in existence any longer. They've been replaced by community protection notices and community protection warnings. I haven't got the information to hand, but I can get that information to you. Is that okay?
Thank you very much. Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. I just wondered why you mentioned the 3 areas that you've had reports. I think one of them was in my area in Exmouth, but I'm just wondering why ward members don't get a report from the officers saying there is a problem in X ward, because obviously members do get approached by the residents.
With regard, sorry, with regard, do you mean with regard, sorry, Councillor Gazzard, do you mean with regard actual nature of the complaints or the number of the complaints in your particular parish?
That there is a complaint in the parish or in the particular ward that we have obviously councillors elected to, because we have to find out it from another source. It'd be nice if the office actually notified the ward members direct. Thank you.
We've got, on the performance indicator, we've got a indication of the level of complaints. We don't break, and we know internally where those issues are, but we can't obviously, when a complaint comes in, we have to investigate that complaint, and sometimes we do get spurious complaints. But obviously, if ward members want details of the overarching, what sort of the nature of the complaints in their particular area, we can provide that to them. But we can't go into the details of who the complainants are and who the perpetrators are, obviously.
Catherine?
Yeah, that would be helpful, Chair. Thank you.
I just wanted to just be mindful of officer time, because obviously including details to every ward member whenever we're doing work is going to just duplicate effort and it'd be an awful lot of work for teams to do on top of an already busy schedule in terms of tackling the issues. So I think I'd want us to maybe take this away and have a little conversation about how we could maybe offer something where there's something particular escalation points, or if there's particular grave concerns that are causing maybe more community-wide impacts rather than individual cases, because I do feel that otherwise we may be offering to do something that is absolutely just going to become a drain on resource. That's the only thing, Steve. So that's my hesitation. Will you allow us to take that away and have a chat? And we can chat with you, Steve, as well, individually, to just share your individual concerns. Is that okay?
Could I just come back, Chair, then? I mean, I think in the interest of openness and transparency that this council works under, it is important that, and I appreciate what you're saying, it will be extra work, but in reality, it won't be that much, will it? If there's only X number of antisocial behaviour, take my place in Exmouth. If there's an antisocial complaint in Withicombe Rally ward in Exmouth, it would be nice as a ward member that I could be told that there is this complaint. And I don't think it would create that much extra work, but that's just my opinion. I don't work in the office. I'm just the one that gets it in the neck from the residents. Thank you.
Councillor Ledger, please.
Thanks very much, Chair. Whilst I understand what you're saying, Steve, I think we need to just remember our role as councillors here and the strategic nature of it, and the fact that officers are there for the operational matters. And we don't want to be stepping into that domain every single time that a complaint comes in. We pay all the officers here really good money to deal with the problems. And if there is an issue that needs to be escalated to us, we can then be informed. But for every minor complaint that comes in, because we will be receiving multiple ASB claims that once investigated aren't anything, I don't think that's worth officers' time. And I'm looking at Darren just knowing. I don't think that's a good use of our time. What we want to be doing is ensuring the correct processes are in place to reduce ASB and that we're dealing with them rather than constantly informing ward members of every single thing as soon as anyone tries to sneeze on their estate or something. It's just about the levels of involvement of councillors, and I think we need to really respect that kind of strategic versus operational.
Thank you very much,
Can I
Councillor.
come back, Chair?
Sorry?
I think I must come back and answer Dan. I do think that councillors are being pushed to one side on a lot of things in this council at the moment, and I do think that we make a lot of openness and transparency, and we seem to be moving away from that. So I do think there is a need that councillors need to be advised of a lot more that is going on with issues in this council. But as I say, that's only my view as an elected ward member. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cassard. Catherine.
Just to come back, I think if you'll allow me the opportunity, as I asked for, to go away and review, because obviously I'm responsible for environmental health as well, which covers the general public and how we deal with community protection. Because what I wouldn't want to do is to just isolate our tenants and be reporting on their antisocial behaviour as a particular bracket of society rather than showing that data in the whole. So if you'll allow me to just do a piece of work and then come back with some sort of proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So no more questions from Councillor Barlow.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, it's great strategy that we're going to put out. The cost of it, I presume more staff, more looking at it. The idea is we're going to save in the future as the ASBs drop, whatever. Is this in budget now or in the budget we haven't spent? Because I know we've saved quite a lot because we haven't done bits of work, etc. So is this going to be an expense going forward? Or are we hoping this is going to be saving money in the long term? And what sort of length of term are we talking about for saving money?
Thank you, Councillor Barlow. I believe this is actually just about the update to the existing policy that we have. I don't think there's going to be any more changes. Darren, I'll come over to you if that's easier.
No changes, but I do have something else to mention that's been brought to our attention from since the agenda was published about the ASB policy, and Councillor Bailey was going to discuss that today. It doesn't directly address Councillor Barlow's query, though.
Yeah, there's no change. This is just an update to the policy. Councillor Barlow, thank you. Yes, Darren, do you want to come in?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. As I mentioned, we've had a tenant approach us in relation to the Autism Act, wishing that requesting the Autism Act be included in Section 15 of our ASB policy. Section 15 lists related policies and strategies, procedures, etc., that help shape our policy. Our response initially was that the ASB policy is heavily influenced by the Equality Act, which obviously autism is a protected characteristic covered within that act. The tenant has asked that that it be presented to board today that her request that the Autism Act 2009 is included in Section 15 of the ASB policy.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Any more?
Thank you. Just 2 or 3 minor points, really. One, your equalities statement, which I thought was superb, is really good to see that detail. I just wonder, in the summary at the start, where you said high risk, I thought high risk, but it says nothing. Then I saw your report. I just wonder, you ought to bring out some key points in there to put in there, because I thought it was an excellent, really well done. Just a couple of minor points. When you said you've been out consulting, is there a summary anywhere of what you found? Because I didn't see it in here, but I may well have missed it. And when you say on page 44, the policy consultation, you say executive leadership team and scrutinised our housing review board. You're saying that's what they're doing today, because they haven't done it yet, have they? That's on page 44.
My understanding, the ASB policy has gone to ELT. I'm not sure about the scrutiny board. I defer to my colleagues.
So it's talking about a couple of things in there. So it has gone through our tenant scrutiny panels, and then but I concur, it has been written in there that scrutiny of Housing Review Board, but it's because the policy's been written in its final version, assuming it's approved, which is why it's written like that, so that if it's approved today, it's done. Great, print, use. But yeah, I take your point. Thank you.
Thank you. So coming into committee then, committee members, Councillor Burhott, please.
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, I'd like to just see what the tenant members here think of this policy, and it'd be good to hear from them and from their perspectives. If I can just go back to the point about the inclusion of the Autism Act, I'd like to understand if there are any considerations or concerns about inclusion of that. Does it have any consequences that we can predict in terms of including that in Section 15? And finally, in terms of Councillor Gazzard's concerns, I think we come to a performance report later which shows that there have been or are 40 ASB cases ongoing or have been investigated in the past quarter. I mean, That's quite a significant number. There are 60 councillors and 60 wards. If we are to be bombard's probably the fed information every time an ASB complaint materialises from our wards, from EDDC side, I think that would be overkill. I think if a resident approaches us and makes an inquiry as to why their ASB, they believe their ASB complaint hasn't been properly dealt with, that's an appropriate use of everybody's time, and we can then use our time to use a councillor inquiry form to make further inquiries into the progress of that complaint. So that would be my reading of it, and I wouldn't be in favour of sort of positive feed of every ASB that gets raised. But that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bob. Just before I move on, obviously, you've got two people, like the board you'd like to speak to, obviously, about their thoughts on the policy, but then you also would like a response from Darren. Can the residents and that on tenants on the board, just if we go to Darren, whilst you have a think if there's anything you'd like to add, we'll go over to Darren first, if that's okay. Andy, so sorry.
It's all right. We sat on opposite side of the rooms to keep you on your toes. Yeah, it was it's a really good question. So regarding the inclusion of the Autism Act, got obviously absolutely no problem of what acts we list in there that are relevant. Our response initially to the tenant has been more around actually there are a number of different acts and legislations that make provision for the various protected characteristics within the Equality Act and other vulnerabilities, etc. So actually the list is not meant to be exhaustive, and the Equality Act is and our public sector duty is what's referenced in there. And my view on that is that actually any other legislation relevant to the protected characteristics falls out from under that. There's a danger in any policy if you start trying to create an exhaustive list, that actually then the policies or legislation that you don't include is then kind of intentionally or not could be discrimination or a gap in that policy. So I'd be reticent to start going down that route, but I'm also happy to take the board's view on it. I think if we do, then we'll need to go away and actually really think about all of the legislation that falls out, which could be quite some task and quite a large list.
Thank you very much, Andrew. So Councillor Burhop, your question obviously was to the board members. So Rachel Brown.
With regard to the ASB, it was just to find out whether people who own their properties within the council blocks are actually protected from this. Because what we've come across in our close is it's quite horrendous at the moment, and police have been called, like, I would say at least half a dozen times for one particular tenant. And it's causing major distress for a young family who lives below them at the moment. But within that particular block, the whole block has cleared out over the last 5 years because of this situation. And what keeps coming back is that nothing can be done because he owns his property. And so it just seems to be this cycle of people leave and then they get replaced, and we don't know where we stand with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else want to? Yeah, Rob?
It's warming up. Going back to so I was looking at race and equality and looking at some of the traveller communities that have sort of arrived within Axminster about what's been in place for when they arrive, because I feel a bit sort of, I don't want to push people away. I want to sort of invite them into a community and sort of offer, sort of help and advice and give them the same. But I sort of get a bit stuck when I live in where we live here, and we've had them turn up and break in a few fences and get into the land. But it's where do we push them to? Just trying to include them within our communities as well, rather than sort of get angry, because we tend to, I can see a lot of complaints happening online through social media, and people love a good complaint on social media, and you're trying to advise people to talk to local council or talk to the police. And apparently Facebook will heal anything and will save the world. So I just think some bits get missed when it comes to complaints. But I just feel we've got a whole community here where people are sort of angry and some are happy to invite. But it's just be good to be able to say to people, well, this is what's in place. At the moment, you can report it, who to report it, and we can assist these people in moving on or moving somewhere to suit them. Thank you.
Thank you. I suppose that's what this is about, really, is ensuring that this policy is correct and everyone feels that this is okay. Okay. Catherine.
Yeah, it was just to come back really on, I guess, Rachel's point and yours as well, Rob, to a certain extent. I mean, if there are any concerns, we absolutely do have a non-housing antisocial behaviour and community team that specifically look at community safety. So whatever those concerns are, people can come through to that team. It may be that the team then advise what the next course of action may be, but they will absolutely listen to people and they will absolutely help. So there is definitely a route in. So again, if that's something that we can look at on a comms piece for, it's not housing related, so we do need to, you know, as in it's not for this board, I will take that away and we can look about how we communicate some of that out so that people know that they've got a route in and there is additional support outside of, as you've said, Rachel, the kind of the standard things like the police, obviously, and all of those other functions, statutory functions. We will also have a team that can support. So yes, I'll have a look at that and how we comms that out.
Thank you very much. No more questions or comments. Councillor Dumper.
Yeah, I was looking at 717, the behaviours that will not be considered by us to be antisocial behaviour. And looking down that list, there are one or two things which I would say could well be regarded by neighbours as antisocial behaviour. And I was going to ask rather a naive question because I don't know the answer. It mentions considered by us. That means that East Devon District Council sets its own list of antisocial behaviours, does it? Or is there a legislative list, or what happens in that area?
Yeah, thank you, Darren.
To answer your question, obviously what we consider as antisocial behaviour is covered in our tenancy agreement. There's not a list as sort as such. Obviously these items here that we said wouldn't be considered as antisocial behaviour. It's not an exhaustive list either. Obviously, if there's associated behaviours aligned with those, for example, then that would become antisocial behaviour. But these on their own, I would suggest, aren't standalone ASB cases.
Can I come back to you on that one? That I would suggest that there's a lot of these, I mean, smells from cooking, for instance, to take a relatively non-controversial one. You can have, there's if you like, a continuum on many of these things. And when you get towards the top of that continuum, then it most certainly is antisocial. And also the regularity of these things occurring, then people get more and more fed up, and therefore it becomes antisocial, in my view.
Agreed. It becomes a tipping point for all of us, and obviously what the team would do would they investigate any complaints. If it was just a one-off, as we said, we wouldn't deal with it, but if it is a continuum, as you say, and you get to the point of affecting people's lives, where they live in their lives, etc., we would then investigate and go forward from there.
Thank you very much, everyone. If there's Andy.
Sorry, I just wanted to add to that because I think it's really important that actually within our policies, we really do need to set expectations and the boundaries around the things that we can do and the powers that we have. And I think it is really important, actually, and I do agree with Darren, there's an accumulation and there's tipping points on certain things. But actually, we also have to manage those expectations of where we do have the powers and the abilities to deal with things. And antisocial behaviour ultimately can become a legal issue. if it doesn't isn't dealt with early interventions, which is obviously always the preferred. And you have to look at those things of actually, if you start down the route using, like you say, the perhaps non-controversial one of the smell from cooking, you work down that line to worst case scenario. Actually, if this doesn't improve, then we may get into a legal situation. Is a judge going to side with us that someone's tenancy should be at risk because they were cooking garlic in their property? Do you know what I mean? And so we do have to be really sensible with the expectations that we set with our tenants, because otherwise actually what we're doing is setting an expectation that we can control something, or we have powers over something that we in reality don't, which will ultimately end up in complaints and dissatisfaction. So I just think it's really important actually that we are setting those expectations.
Yeah, may I just come back on that one then? So one of the questions I asked during what I said was, is there some sort of legal list? Is there a legislative list? Or are we as councils invited to interpret the term antisocial behaviour?
Did you want to come back? I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. So if there's no more questions or comments, we do have a recommendation. So I will go over to Giles for this one, please.
So a recommendation for the board to vote on is the Housing Review Board to recommend to Cabinet that they approve the proposed updated antisocial behaviour policy.
Okay, so everybody on the board will be voting, obviously, apart from Richard. Thank you. So all those that are to... Okay, before we do vote on that one, do you want, are you happy to vote on the policy as it stands at the moment, or are you wanting to look at including the Autism Act, Councillor Burholt?
Nobody has actually proposed an amendment to the recommendation, so I would propose the recommendation. I'm happy to propose it as it stands.
I just say the Autism Act is included within the requirements of the Equality Act, so actually it's a catch-all.
Thank you. So all those that are happy to approve. Nine, so that's carried. Excellent. Thank you very much, everyone. So before we move on to agenda item 11, we're going to have literally a quick 5-minute break for people to just get up, stretch and have a comfort break if they need to. So back by 20 past, please. Right, everyone. You've had 10 minutes. Schedule.
We need to go. Otherwise we're going to be here forever. We just start.
Aware of that, and I had asked for all.
Hi, everybody. We're ready to start. Everybody, if we are ready to start, that would be great because we've got quite a lot to get through. So, yes, moving on. Thank you, everybody. I think we're all here. That needs to be. Thank you very much. So we'll be moving on then with agenda item 11, and this is the review of the electrical safety policy. And this can be found on pages 45 to 55. We're going to go over to Nathan Muggeridge, the corporate lead for housing, property and assets, to present the report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. So I'm going to start with an apology in that I will be coughing and spluttering my way through this as I've come back from holiday with more than just a suntan, so apologies. Yeah, this is an update to an existing policy to reflect some legislative changes, but also it allows us to put some more robust management into this process. So change we've put in is like how we're managing the remedial works, how we're managing quality assurance within our electrical works, process of reporting non-compliance and updating our codes of practice. Now, as social housing regulation is never sort of a dull thing at the moment, we've actually, at the end, well, beginning of July, got some additional regulations that have come in outside of this, the assurance of this policy, and they relate to statutory 5-year testing, 28 days to resolve any remedial works, tenants actually getting copies of ICRs, and etc. So we now need to take this, well, we'll need to look at those changes and see how it impacts on this policy, plus also what's coming in through AWAB's law relating to the electrical bit. So just making you aware, we might actually need to bring this back again next time round. Yeah, does anyone have any questions on that?
Okay, Councillor Westerman, please.
Just for the from the tenant's point of view, when electrician visits, do they have a right to ask for their qualifications before they let them in?
Hand over to my colleague for that. All of the contractors, their qualifications are checked before they come on board and are selected for us as a contractor. So all the electricians that come on board will have the relevant electrical qualifications. That's checked. Yes. It's not something that electricians will carry around with them. Some will have their cards. Some, not all of them carry a card. You don't need a card. Their qualifications themselves are actually checked as part of the contract check. Oh.
And so you will send out communication that X person will come, and you will guarantee that they are they have the right qualifications.
Absolutely. And if there is a issue where we say we've sent out a contractor sent out one of their engineers and we don't have them on board, or there's some issue with them, we will investigate that, of course. But all of the engineers that go out will have the relevant qualifications.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gazzard, please. No. Councillor Goodman, please.
Thank you. In openness and transparency, I'm surprised that in the introduction it wasn't included that this was necessary, because it was identified as a risk by the internal auditors. And because I happen to be on the internal audit and governance, I read the paper, and I'm just surprised it's not been included in this paper, because it was quite clear we had to do something and it was a high risk for them. The second point I've got is that when it comes to the 2026 review, which is going to be important, is it not possible that the Housing Review Board could have a small task group to help formulate that? Because that would be true way of actually looking at the scrutiny side of this meeting. Rather than the report come straight here, would it not be possible a small group got together and helped you with that, putting that together? Thank you.
So taking the second bit around the scrutiny piece, all our policies now will go through the repairs and maintenance scrutiny group. The repairs one has, and this will, in future, the electrical one will go through that route as well. In terms of the changes we've got, sorry, do you want to come back?
When you say that group, what group? Who makes up that group?
Can I just bring Catherine in at this point, please?
I just think in the interest of transparency, things have been noted in multiple meetings. The audit results have been discussed at HRB on multiple occasions. I just want to address that nobody is trying to hide anything in terms of presenting this report. So I just want to kind of jump in and kind of add that really for Nathan. And I think from my perspective, the whole point of this panel is to scrutinise. And if we set up individual scrutiny groups and task force groups and for every policy, we could be working forever and not get anything done.
So coming into committee, any questions or comments on the safety policy? Councillor Bellhop, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just on section 3.8, which is page 51 of our pack. We're talking about portable appliance testing. So, as I understand it, the legislation requires that for properties that are within our control and appliances that have been supplied by us with portable electrical appliances, then we have a responsibility to test those. But what this policy isn't clear on, in my opinion, is to distinguish between tenants' electrical items, which we don't have a responsibility to test, and those items supplied by East Devon District Council. So I think this could lead to confusion for responsibility if we're not careful.
Catherine?
Absolutely brilliant, valid point. We will add that into the policy.
Well scrutinised. Thank you very much, Councillor Bellhop.
Gold star.
Any other comments or questions from any of the board members? No? Excellent. So we have a recommendation on this one, so I will pass over to Giles, please.
Thank you, Chair. So the Housing Review Board recommends the approval of the updates and amendments to the electrical safety policy for housing.
The amendment?
Pending the amendment.
Pending the amendment.
As long as you're comfortable to give me the authority to go ahead and make sure that that's in there.
I think that's very fair, Chair. Is everyone happy with that?
Okay, so is everyone happy to vote to approve this? If you can all raise your hands, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody. There we go. Let's come back on. So that moves us on to agenda item 12, and this is the review of housing repairs policy and AWAB's law. Can be found on pages 56 to 71. We're going to go back to Nathan Muggeridge, Corporate Lead Housing, Property and Assets, to present the report, please.
So let's start off with my second apology in terms of I sent Andy the wrong links to the policy, and the one you've got has actually got some entertaining spelling mistakes in it and formatting. They will get resolved in the final version. So the policy has been updated as a result of a change in AWAB's law. Well, for those who don't know, what AWAB's law has come about as a result of the death of AWAB Iska, who died as a response to exposure to damp and mould batting in 2020. Law is basically coming into effect in 27th of October, but the government only actually announced the requirements of that at the end of June. So we've had to do some fairly urgent work to work out what that means for us. We've built that into this policy. It is very much sort of risk-based around the housing health and safety risks systems failures. So what we know is HHSRS, and that's 29 different failures that could occur within the home, and the policy now explains how we're going to deal with that and prioritise them. New legislation sets out how, well, in quite a lot of detail, and sets us some fairly challenging targets of how we need to respond to those. And probably the most challenging situation will be is if we suspect there is a severe case or severe failure. So that could be severe damp and mould within a property, or severe risk due to a fall from height. We have 24 hours to inspect that property, and then a further 24 hours to either resolve it or move the tenant out of that property. And that is actually going to be a legal requirement. If we're not there, then that opens us up to civil claim through disrepair process, plus further regulatory action. So you see that we've put together the policy includes details about how we're going to prioritise our repairs job to reflect AWAB's law, and also what response times we've assigned to those different things, because it is important that we prioritise our jobs as they come in. We can't respond, like it's 24 hours for all jobs. We need to prioritise this out, to reflect our constrained needs. If on approval of this policy, we will continue our programme of works to implement it. So that includes changing the call centre scripts, that includes comms plans to make tenants aware of the changes that are coming in, and also modification to our systems and processes to be able to deliver this. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you very much. So outside of committee, Councillor Heath first, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can it be enshrined, switching procedure? And it has been, please forgive me, but where a tenant or a councillor reports a serious repair issue that has health and safety implications, there is a requirement that the investigating officer, possibly a maintenance surveyor or somebody who is an electrician, visits the property to define the problem through an evidence-based assessment. So, if there is a leakage caused by natural events such as rainfall, as one example, the officer visits at the time of a recurring event as a priority and makes a report that can be viewed by the tenant and the councillor representing and advocating for them. Thanks.
Nathan?
Yeah, so the legislation has a clear requirement that for those severe cases and the moderate cases, we have to produce a report within 3 days of doing that visit and provide that back to the tenant, so that we are clear of what's going on and what the issue is and what's the sort of plan of attack moving forwards. And it is, it's a fairly fundamental shift in how we're working at the moment, and it presents a significant challenge considering the timescales we've got to implement this.
Can I just come back on that, please?
Quickly, yes.
That hasn't been happening until recently. Can you then reassure me and other councillors that that will be enshrined in practice from now on to avoid a situation that arose earlier this year? Thanks.
I can say we are working towards it. It's not going to happen straight away. We'll cover the resource issues at the moment, which is this further compounding this. But yeah, it is a risk for us moving forwards in terms of being able to comply with that. But we do have a plan of how we're going to deliver that, but it will take some time.
Thank you very much. Councillor Westerman, please.
In the name of transparency, would it be possible for tenants to have a view of reports from contractors, surveyors, electricians, mould experts, whatever, whoever visits their homes, to actually have sight of these reports if they request them?
So it will be a legal requirement where the severity of the case is that severe that we have to provide that information to them, and we do want to provide that visibility to tenants. The regulator's been very clear with us that is what we've got to do, and the regulation's doing the same now. So yes, absolutely. But I'd say just be conscious of us building that capability to do that, because that is quite a significant project for us.
Thank you. If it's quick.
Back. Does this include Ian Williams, reports that go through Ian Williams?
The reports will need to come from us, and we will, we'll standardise those and put together templates. But they will need to come, through us.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to explain to me and other members, so should someone moan about their house and then we go in, we have a look at it, it's really bad, they've got to be decamped, etc. Can we then turn around and say it's not viable to fix it and therefore we will give you another house? Or do we have to, by law, fix that house as it is, regardless of the cost? So that's the first thing. And I know this is just another policy, and I've been told before, but it all has a cost, doesn't it? Every new policy we bring in, every new line, every new thing that we've got to do, the pack testing, whatever it is, it still has a cost. So is this, again, all in the present costs, or are we expecting this to mount up more costs that then affect the overall HRA position?
Okay, so on the first issue, the decant, we don't necessarily have to fix that property, but we do have to, so we could choose to dispose of it if it is that significant and rehouse that tenant, if that's an option. The important bit really is around that we don't leave tenants in properties that are unsafe. That's the key factor of it, and then we'll have to manage from that. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we want to decant. It's like, what can we do to mitigate that risk? Because we reflect that, disruption to tenants of moving people out is, significant. So, yeah, there is further work for us to do around that. In terms of the cost, I'd say that is a risk, but it's a risk from the fact of how quickly we can get through our capital programme, because a lot of these issues are historic, I would say, reflect the age of our property, and we're not going to sort them all out through repairs. They're going to have to go through bigger capital schemes, and we need to build that capability out so, we are not inundated with damp and mould, and other safety issues.
Can I just bring in Andrew King quickly for you?
Just wanted to expand a little bit on what Nathan was saying there. So Nathan's quite right. If we've got an empty property that's in a state of poor repair, that it feels unviable, or is financially unviable to repair that property, we can look at disposing of it. Or certainly if it's a tenanted property and that tenant requests to move, but we can't force that upon a tenant if they're on a secure tenancy. So if we've got a tenant living in a property that requires works and they do not wish to move home, we are obliged to do the works to that property. We can't dispose of it. I think under the Housing Act, the only ability that we have to to move someone through, if you like, a no-fault removal is if that property is earmarked for demolition. That's the only caveat within the Housing Act to make way for new development.
That's all I wanted to check. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barlow. Councillor Goodman, please.
Build under page, was it page 57 and 58? There are two risks there, which is the compliance, and you're concerned about capability of doing that by October, and the other one was the delays in insufficient planned works. Do I take it from that point you've just made, you would just, if you're unable to do it, you just move the people out to make sure they were safe? And the second point is, on the same page, or the next page, item G, review current historic data for damp and mould, and you've got to get that done by October. Are you able to confirm for the Housing Review Board that will be done? Because that's quite a crucial thing, the historical stuff, because what's a problem today may not be a serious problem, but it could be in a few months' time, and I'm just wondering how you're going to, because it's quite key. This article is very clear, and it is there to protect our residents. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks. So, yeah, the risks are, there's significant risks there. We're going to have to manage them as best we can. I'm not going to stand here and say we're going to get everything right from day one, because, from our starting position, that's, going to be a real challenge. In terms of damp and mould and management of that, we now got some data analysis support back in the team. They will be picking this up because we recognise damp and mould sort of evolves over time. It sort of ebbs and flows depending on tenants' behaviour, depending on how much rain we have, and etc. we've got a bit of an idea on how we're going to sort of, I suppose, take a risk-based approach to that. So it might be minor now, you know, can we go in and do inspections and stuff? And I think we will have to keep going on in and doing inspections and keeping track of stuff like that. But it is about inspecting those inspection programs up, understanding, you know, who's doing that, what's the cost, and so on.
Thank you very much. So moving in, oh, no, sorry, Councillor Gazzard, nearly.
Thank you, Chair. I just really wanted to say that I really welcome this policy and this law. It's really good. But I'll just be on the positive side. I mean, I just wanted to congratulate our team because last year I had to report one of our tenants that had severe damp in their house, and within 24 hours, a team was in trying to sort it out. So works very well at the moment, but this will give extra armoury to sorting out the issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gazzard. Moving into committee then, do we have any questions or comments from anybody inside committee? Rachel?
Yeah, I'm happy to hear about this policy also, because I have seen some young children who there's severe damp and mould in the buildings, and one little boy literally had to give up his sports because he came down with asthma, which was pretty horrendous. The other question is regarding the damp and mould. Is there any transparency on the actual products that are used to clear the damp and mould? Because my flat was dealt with damp and mould, and when I walked back in there, I nearly collapsed. So it's to know what the chemicals they might be using aren't more dangerous than the damp and the mould.
Yeah, so thank you for pointing out the vulnerability piece, because that's what I haven't covered is actually, yeah, in that legislation, there's a clear view around we have to understand people's vulnerabilities, and that's going to lead to some changes on our call centre to make sure we are absolutely understanding that from the start. In terms of how we respond and the chemicals and stuff, we need to look at that into more detail. I'm not particularly happy at the moment. Our sole solution seems to be a damp and mould wash. That's part of it, but it's like, why aren't we getting to the root cause of a lot of these things? So, but yeah, thank you for raising that.
So is there a list anywhere of what products they are using to clear the damp and the mould?
Let me come back to you outside of this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bohart, please.
Thanks, Chair. Commend the policy, and you know, there's a lot of work obviously gone into it. On page 66, the list of tenant responsible repairs, I just note that there's no reference to the tenant being responsible for their gardens, and gardens are an important aspect of the community, and it's important that we do emphasise to tenants, in my opinion, their responsibilities for making sure that their gardens look neat and tidy. And I think that should be included in that list personally. And the only other thing to say is I suspect that enshrined in law as these responsibilities are now going to be, we are going to be faced with a bow wave of work that has to be caught up immediately. And as the officer has already emphasised, I don't think that's going to be realistic. We've got to manage everybody's expectations, this committee's especially, and our tenants' expectations about the timings that we're likely to achieve and the implementation of this policy, because I don't think we're going to be able to achieve this on day one. Is there anything that is going to be, you know, comms that are going to be put out in terms of managing expectations? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. I'm going to bring in Catherine, please.
Just to say, absolutely take your point on the gardens element. It is included within tenancy agreements at present, but absolutely take your note that to make reference to it within this policy absolutely makes sense. And to just note that in terms of some of the work ahead, actually a lot of that work has been identified through the stock condition survey. Cat 1s have been addressed, and the Cat 2s work is in train for those. So we're confident that of the cases that we know of. Obviously, I'd never say we know of all of them because we obviously have to get them reported in, but it is just work in train, business as usual in that sense. So it's already accounted for.
Thank you very much. Councillor Martin, please.
Mine's just a quick question. Following on from what Chris was saying, Do we have a requirement within the policy, is it written down that when tenants come to doing things like disconnecting appliances such as cookers, that they use an approved contractor to do that? Thank you.
And you thought you were done. Andrew?
Wouldn't want to get bored. No, it's a really good point. I will triple check, Melanie, but I think it's included in the individual policies around like gas safety, etc. That you have to have a gas safe engineer to do any gas works with your property. But we will triple check because it's a good point that if you're having those particular risk trade work done in your property, but absolutely. And I know we outline it in our sign-ups, etc. when tenants moving in, but making sure that's in the policies is a fair point.
Thank you very much. Rob, please.
I want to follow on that as well. So do you need a certificate to connect a cooker then? Just gas,
yes.
if it's electric?
No.
Okay.
Unless it's wired in, yeah.
And if it's got a plug, no. If it's wiring, yes.
Oops.
Thank you very much, Rob.
Yeah. Mine was really about following on sort of repairs in areas of communal areas that we have within the site. So I know I'll use my own place where I live, for instance, is Huntley, where I live, Huntley Court, up in Axminster on Millway Estate. And so the communal areas are where, say, like the bin areas that are shared between sort of 8 properties, and then you've got like other areas, and they're just full of overgrown weeds, and it's just... So, I mean, I would like to think that as a shared community, we could all sort of clear up our own rubbish, but it only takes one person to dump their rubbish on the floor, and it becomes a bigger problem, and at the moment, it's just a really big problem. So I had a walk around all the other ones, and it seems to be pretty much... across the board, it's like it always seems to be someone else's problem. I don't know how we can tackle this, or send some notice, or send a rat man round or something.
I know not just this authority, but many other local ones are having very similar issues, where the properties were built in sort of the 1950s, 1960s, and everybody had one standard bin back then for everything to go in. Times have changed very rapidly now, and we've all got sort of 2, 3 different bins that we need to store somewhere. Those storage areas just aren't big enough in some cases to take everything. So I completely appreciate what you're saying with, you know, items that are being put outside of that, if you like, and taking up a lot of the room. I don't know, does anybody want to come back on? Andrew?
Well, I want to do, Darren. Yeah, it's no, it's a really good point. I think when it comes to maintenance of communal areas, I'm absolutely an advocate for where community initiatives can work, where we're not always necessarily relying on a contract. Actually, what other ways that we could be creative about getting communities involved and making those, taking on ownership of those shared spaces and all of that. I think some of it comes into stuff that will come later down the line on the forward plan as well. I know Darren and the estates team are looking at that sort of overarching neighbourhoods policy and how we manage our neighbourhoods. And review of backgrounds maintenance piece within the housing stock as well. So no, completely agree with that.
Yeah, Rachel?
Just one very quick thing, because in our area, there's quite a bit of fly tipping with couches and fridges that have just appeared within the last year. And what tenants seem to think is that now there's a charge from the council, people don't have the money to be able to pay them to get them removed. So tenants don't seem to know what to do about them.
Thank you. Any more questions, comments from inside the board? No? Excellent. We have 2 recommendations. I shall go over to Charles.
Thank you, Chair. So,
Councillor Dumper, sorry.
I was slow there, Chair. I apologise.
Got to be quick today.
Yeah. Following up on the issue of gardens, etc., I just wanted to say that there was a case in Exmouth, in my ward, where a tenant was going outside the garden maintenance regulation, but in fact was trying actually to do an element of rewilding. And it seemed to me, and it seemed to others, and we had considerable discussion about this with tenancy officers, etc., and a reasonable compromise was come to in the end. But it does seem to me that if we write our garden policy too prescriptively, then we might run into these problems which go over onto our countryside and ecological policies, which I think need to be considered in the context of gardens.
Thank you, Councillor Dumper. So, 2 recommendations.
Thank you, Chair. So the Housing Review Board recommends to Cabinet that they approve the proposed repairs policy. And secondly, that the Housing Review Board notes some final amendments may be made following further feedback from tenant scrutiny and stakeholders and this board, as of today, with commitment to bring the policy back to HRB should any material amendments be required.
Thank you. So, everybody who is happy to approve those recommendations, please. That is unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. So that moves us on to agenda item 13, which is the review of the radon policy. This can be found on pages 72 to 85 and back over to Nathan Mugridge. You're busy this morning. Corporate Lead, Housing, Property and Assets, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is actually a new policy and it relates to the management of radon, which is a naturally occurring radioactive gas in some soil types. We have a high risk of, potentially high risk of radon in some of our properties to the east of the region. Risk in sort of between about 10 and 30% is for about 50 properties. Overall, then there's another 1,000 properties that we need to look at. So as you can see in the documents, we've taken this sort of risk-based approach where we'll go out, we've done the sort of initial screening, we now need to go and do some monitoring of these properties, work out what the actual risk is, and then if we need to do some mitigation measures, then we'll carry on with that works. Cost model has been put together for this policy, so working out what is it actually going to cost us to do this, and that is within existing budgets. There is probably a question that we need to look at around running the ventilation. If there is a need for additional ventilation on these policies, who's covering that cost? And I'll say we'll look at that once we start to understand what that, the scale of that issue is. Any questions on that?
Thank you very much. So outside of committee, any questions? No? Excellent. Councillor Cathcart.
Just a quick question. Will these checks be carried out at the same time as the gas checks when they by Liberty Gas, or will it be somebody outside of that, please?
It'll be somebody outside it because we actually need to install some specialist monitoring equipment to capture or quantify the radon risk.
Thank you very much. Councillor Barlow, please.
Thank you, Chair. And again, great policy. Well done. Got to be done. Made me worry about my house. I'm going to have mine checked now as well. And I'm glad to hear it's coming out of our current budget and all the rest of it. But again, our budget is was squeezed. So it's coming out of the budget. Is this because we're not doing the other works that we were intending to do? And is this something that we've got to keep doing? So again, I know I've said before, but every time we do a policy, it's more cost, it's more things, it's more overheads, which then has to come out of it, which then lowers the amount of money we have left to do other things. And I just wonder how long you can keep doing this without it becoming a problem.
I'd say we've got the budget in the current financial forecast for doing this work. It's not an issue, but I think your point is fair. Just as a general observation within housing, we're being asked to do a lot at the moment, but you're not seeing the revenue go up significantly for that.
And we're looking to cut costs later, aren't we? I think in another one a little bit further down.
Yeah, we can pick that up then. Okay.
Well said. Excellent. Councillor Goodman, please.
Yeah, I want to go to the risk again, risk 3, which you've identified, and where it says a mitigation measures, and this is against tenants turning off this equipment, is discussed with tenants with full transparency, the sort of costs, and if we would actually pay for it. Now, have we any idea how much this might cost per tenant, and then what the potential liability would be? I can see the danger of them turning it off, and we were right to mitigate that danger, but I just wonder if you had any further thoughts on it.
Honestly, no, not at the moment. I think for us, it's like, let's do the surveys, let's understand what the risk is. You know, that will tell us what the mitigation measures are like, and then obviously what that impact on the tenant. But I hope you can see from the policy, you know, we've put the tenant at the centre of this in terms of that, you know, what it means for them. So we will, you know, reflect that in, you know, how we manage this risk going forward.
Thank you very much. Moving into committee then, please. Any comments or questions inside a committee? Councillor Burhart, please.
Thank you, Chair. Again, a commendable policy. I take Councillor Barlow's point that this is yet another legislative overlay and responsibility that we are now picking up, albeit late in the day, to be perfectly honest. Looking at the report on page 73, if I've read it right, we've identified 1,481 properties that potentially sit in a radon risk area. So from my guesstimation, if you look at UK Radon, they supply a testing kit. It's about £60 for a testing kit. So you've got about £90,000 worth of testing kits that we're going to have to buy. You've then got the labour and officer time to visit each property, because you can't just send them to our tenants, I presume, and ask them to set it all up, because they'll probably not comply, and we need everything to comply. So I don't recall a line in the budget specifically for radon. Is this being absorbed in the sort of general expenses budget? That's my point. Thank you.
I'm going to bring Catherine in, please.
We do have a line in the budget for radon, but I will just give Rob a moment to just clarify that, if that's at all possible. But we do have a line on the, because we knew this was coming, so we did put it in just to give assurance. But I will turn to Rob.
We absolutely do.
While Rob's picking that bit up, though, that address the risk piece, there is that 1,300 properties, but it's only, I'm actually correct myself, it's 107 that are in this sort of 10 to 30% risk chance, and even of them, we're not expecting all of those to need, you know, like mitigation measures and etc. So although the numbers feel high, the actual risk is, we're seen as relatively small at the moment in terms of commitment on cost.
Thank you. Just on that point, if I may, so is it correct that we still have to test all 1,481? Yeah, okay.
Rob, did you want to come back?
150,000.
Thank you very much. Any further questions or comments from inside committee? Thank you very much. So this has a recommendation with it as well, so I will pass over to Giles.
So the recommendation is that the Housing Review Board recommend to Cabinet that they approve the proposed radon policy, not repairs, radon policy. And secondly, that the Housing Review Board notes some final amendments may be made following further feedback from tenant scrutiny and stakeholders, and this board with a commitment to bringing the policy back to HRB should any material amendments be required.
Thank you very much, Giles. Everybody who is happy to approve these recommendations, please raise your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. So that moves us on then to agenda item 14. This is the Housing Performance Report, Tenancy Services, Q1 2025-26, can be found on pages 86 to 94. Darren is up here. You confused me then, Darren. I was thinking, where have you gone? Darren Hicks, Tenancy Services Manager, to present the report when he's ready. Thank you.
So there's time slide. I'll just do a quick presentation just to showcase some of the work the team have been doing over the last sort of, well, 6 to 9 months, and prior to that. For those that aren't aware, the Tenancy Services team consists of housing rental, estate management, sheltered housing, the communities team. First, in the report, sorry, there is more narrative I'm giving now, but I'm wary of time. I just wanted to crack on through. I just wanted to highlight a few of the achievements of the rentals team. Obviously, rental income collection was really high and has remained high for the last quarter, which is fantastic news. Obviously, fill the coffers of our HRA account. Rent arrears as a percentage of annual debt, again, really high, when top upper quartile in the country. So again, just 1%, I think just above 1% below where we should be, which is fantastic news. I know you've seen all those before, but I just wanted to we touched on it earlier on ASB cases. Part of the regulator inspection was that we need to be a little bit more transparent and feedback for scrutiny some of our performance on cases. Have I not got it on? Oh, beg your pardon. I don't want to do that. F5.
Control F5.
No, it's not.
Slideshow. Yeah.
Slideshow. From current slide.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. There you go. Cases. We mentioned decants earlier on as regarding what we're doing. As you can see, condition of property. As you can see from there, we've got some work going around at the moment with regards internally with regards how can we reduce our costs with decants. We're looking at utilise our own stock going forward. That will involve some initial outlay to furnish and carpet those properties, but it will save some work we did when I worked in the housing allocations team with Andrew Mitchell and the housing solutions team. We used our own stock to reduce temporary accommodation. We're hopeful that it will reduce our decant budget going forward. Number of evictions, obviously we don't want to evict anyone. We had one permanent eviction from EDC accommodation this last quarter. That was primarily an individual went into a care home and the court awarded us possession on the grounds that the individual wasn't had any intention to return. State inspections is something we've worked fairly hard on over the last sort of 6 months. Covers what Rob was saying about condition of sort of like communal areas, identifying issues before they identifying things before they become an issue, I guess, for our residents. Our target is 100%. We're not over a 6-month period. We're not there yet. Obviously, we've got to 74 for the last 6-month period, October through to March. But we're up towards nearly 60% as of yesterday. So we're moving towards that goal of inspecting every one of our streets and our estates. While we're talking about that, just a quick plug, estate walkabouts. Some of you may have or may have not noticed on social media and certainly the Housing Matters magazine. We're doing a series of estate walkabouts where members, residents, other agencies and officers get together and target a given area. So if any of you would like to get involved, my email's there. Please contact me and we'll make sure we fit you up with your housing officer and give you the relevant dates. Tenancy visits, again, this is all about tenancy sustainment, identifying issues in the property, whether that be with the property itself or with the tenancy. The target for general purpose properties, we'd love to be able to visit every general purpose property over the course of a year, but given we've got 2,700 odd, that's just not possible. So given the resources we've got, so going back to the early point, if we had enough state officers, we could do that. But we set a target of 33% over the course of a year. Pleased to see that actually the team have the target for the quarter obviously was 228, but they've actually managed to get 327, so they're above target on those at this moment in time, which is great news. Tenancy visits are also shared with our sheltered housing team. The sheltered housing team, as you'd expect, given the regularity of visits and the needs of our customers, visit on a far more regular basis. As you can see, we're around about 1,300 over the course of a year of our tenants visited. Discrepancy we've identified goes back to many years ago. We allowed tenants to opt out of our sheltered accommodation, so we're looking at excluding those from these figures. So I'd be hopeful the next quarter will be near 100% of those. New tenant visits fits with our homeless strategy, where we make sure that when we're visiting people within 10 weeks of tenancy start date. It's something new we've introduced on the PI summary. As you can see, we're up to around about 57% of those at the moment in time. We're trying to make sure that's towards 100%. That enables obviously tenancy sustainment and prevents tenancy fraud, and obviously looks at individuals and how they're managing in their tenancy, making sure we're able to sustain them and identify issues early. One team that's not on the dashboard, but is equally as important as the rest, is our communities team. Just a few stats there, following on from Andy's presentation in the last HRB and maybe the one before that. We're still resuming the community hubs. As you can see, we've got 1,600 people have attended over that period of time. The hubs not only provide food, etc., and a chance for social inclusion for people to get out of the house, they provide workshops, and also they've assisted, the community teams have assisted individuals with completing CVs, applying for jobs, referrals to ECO, and Turntable and other departments within East Devon. As I've mentioned, the community team also involved with the ASB focus groups, digital inclusions workshops, our Housing Matters magazine that most of you should receive, and facilitating resident involvement groups. Some of you may or may not be aware of the garden competition. We had 43 entries this year. The communities team have been out and about with the tenant judging over the last couple of weeks, and the event is being held in September, and our partners, including Ian Williams, have contributed towards that to ensure we've got a lunch provided at the Ironbourne Community Centre. Again, if you wish to attend, please let me know. The Resident Connect Festival's on the 21st of August. Past 10, I've put some flyers around. Again, if you would love to see your faces there, so please come along. And the Community Initiative Fund, which I know there's some people in this room that have utilised, whereby tenants apply for grant funding, one-off funding from ourselves for things to enhance their neighbourhood and their communal areas. As I said, I'll be quick as I can. I'm wary that I speak really quickly, so you may not have understood a word I just said. So I'll just go straight through. One last shameless plug, as I said, is the Resident Connect Festival. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Darren. That was great. Any comments or questions from anybody? Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. I just want to pick up on the piece you put on about hubs. That was interesting. Could you enlighten me on my understanding that there is a hub community centre in Burnside in Exmouth that has been shut for whatever reason. Residents are really upset about this because they use it on a regular basis. The rumour is that it's going to be either let or sold to a charity to run instead of the district council. And I just wonder whether you've got any information on that, please.
I have. Can we have a conversation outside this meeting, Councillor Gazzard, if you don't mind? If that's, I was going to know it's in your ward. I mean, we've had a consultation with the residents. We've discussed our plans. The community centre itself is not viable financially, in so much that it's cost us a lot of money to run, as most of us. And one of our service objectives was, from the Housing Service Plan, was to look at how we can get more money in to coffers, so to speak. and what we could do with regards to alternative provision. We've had a consultation with the residents down there.
And do we want to bring in Andy quickly? No?
Yeah, no, we can do. Not to cut across you at all, Darren. No, not at all. But yeah, it's as Darren's alluding to. There's a piece of work going on looking at the affordability and the viability of community centres. We want to make sure they're serving the communities in the right way. I think this particular case, absolutely, I agree, Darren. We possibly need to talk about outside, because I wouldn't want to give away details of any protected parties in those conversations that we're having about the community centre. But I have only recently become aware of the issues of your ward members, Councillor Gazard, and we do take those into consideration, so thank you.
Happy to see you outside the meeting. Just a shame that you didn't include the ward members at the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ledger, please.
Not so much a question, but just a bit of praise, really. Darren, I know that you've been part of the furniture at East Devon for quite a while, but you're fairly new to this role, and it's just really great to see how much you're across everything and how much the teams are now excelling with you in place. So really just a personal thanks to you. I think it needs to be acknowledged when things are going right within the service. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Coming into committee then, Rob, please.
Same as yeah, as Gaz has said, Millway Rise has also got a hub it's been shut down. They're sort of, as a community, they're sort of the same way as our hub, because it's sort of fenced off and good stone throwing practice apparently at the moment.
Catherine will come back on that one for you.
Yeah, we took the decision, and I took the decision to close Millway Rise temporarily, just because of risk. There's some significant risk issues with that building. I don't know if you've seen the back of it. So we took the decision to close it just because it was too high risk. I couldn't sleep at night thinking about brownies or various groups, being in there with that level of risk in terms of health and safety, which is why we took that decision on that particular occasion. We did communicate with the groups that were using it, and we did kind of involve them in that process, and also help to facilitate conversations with other providers where they could go and provide their services from a different area within that community. So we did everything that we could to try and facilitate some of that. But equally, it is a piece of work that we know we want to pick up in terms of what are we doing with it, what do we look at in terms of potentially replacing it, but that all needs to be looked at in the whole in terms of financial viability, which is part of the piece. The stock condition survey also included a review of our community centres. So there's a piece of work now that needs to happen. As with all of these things, there's the next piece of work that needs to happen. So we will be looking at our community centres as a whole and have a planned works programme against those.
You can come back.
Love it. Yeah, so that's good, because there is a need for it because of where it's stuck out there, out in the middle of nowhere. Also, there's a piece of land that's next to the play park, which is, I think there's an extension, which is sort of now not scaffolding, what's it called? The railing things that have been put up are sort of now, but they're just getting stones and lobbing, so I don't know whether there's something can be done, sort of plans for that to go a bit further down in the future, sort of work start.
If I can come through you, Chair, and I'm just conscious Councillor Hayward's got his hand up, so do we want to go to Councillor Hayward?
We can go to Councillor Hayward.
I think I'm logged in. Yeah. Yes. Read the piece of land that's next to Millway Rise Play Park. That piece of land is owned or is identified within the HRA asset base, but negotiations are currently ongoing between East Devon Legals and the Town Council and the Town Council's legal representatives to just agree heads of terms for a long lease on that land in order to establish, using Section 106 money, an inclusive accessibility play area. ostensibly for children with needs who can't be met by ordinary play equipment. So that's funded from 106. That work is currently with the legal team, and I'm sure officers and ELT, SLT here can assist in proceeding that forward. Once heads of terms are agreed, the lease can be signed. It's a peppercorn lease, and I'm grateful, as speaking as the clerk of the Town Council, to East Devon for agreeing for those financial terms. Once that's done and the land falls under Axminster Town Council's ownership via lease, we can proceed with spending the 106 money that we have, or rather that East Devon has, that we're going to ask them for, to deliver quite a fantastic play area. So that's the basis of that equipment.
Thank you, Councillor Hayward. Councillor Jackson, please.
Just a point of clarification, really, from Rob. I'm not sure whether we might be at cross purposes as to which particular piece of land we're talking about here. I think the piece of land that Councillor Hayward's talking about is directly opposite what was the old community centre, but adjacent to the play park. I don't know whether you're talking about that or whether you're talking about the land directly in front of or the land to the rear of the old community centre.
Definitely talking about a piece of land that's by the little play park that's already there. The little building site with all the stones. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, brilliant, thank you.
Catherine, please.
Rob, I will take that away and I'm going to look into that because actually I'm not aware of the piece that Councillor Hayward's just referenced. So I will go away and I'll look at that because I would have hoped to have been aware of that. So I'll find out where we're at. And it may predate me. It may be something that's been in train, for a longer time than I've been here. So I will go away and I'll look at that, okay?
Thank you very much. Richard, just checking, are you okay? Richard? You okay?
Yes, I'm okay, thank you.
Good, just checking, thank you. Rosie, please.
I hope this is applicable, but we had an estate visit about a year ago, and we've got a couple of dangerous issues on the estate, and Sharon, I can't remember her surname, she came round with Rebecca Meakin, I think it was, to say that this would all be done, including the new notice boards that you kindly installed but have now been damaged, and no one has ever done anything about it, though I have reported it. Yes, I'd love to. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Councillor Bellhop, please.
So I'd just like to reflect really on, 18 months ago, the key performance indicators that we were looking at and staring down 18 months ago are absolutely chalk and cheese with what we are now looking at. So, sounds like a bit of a love in here, and it's not meant that way. But, yeah, all right, Catherine, later maybe. To echo Dan's point, credit where credit is due, because pretty much every key performance indicator is going in absolutely the right direction, and some of them are quite exceptional. So credit to the whole team, please, Darren, and pass that on. But what's important actually is, because statistics can tell a story, but what's happening on the ground. And to the tenant representatives here, what's important is that you are actually seeing improvements on the ground from EDDC as landlord. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any more? Councillor Martin, please.
Yeah, I'd like to second that. And actually, it occurred to me when Darren took us through the report that a comms piece on this would be really good that we could put out, all councillors. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. So recommendation on this one, Giles?
Reports to be noted.
Thank you very much. So just to be noted. Thank you, everyone. So that moves us on to agenda item 15, which is the Housing Performance Report, Property and Assets, Q1 2025-26, can be found on pages 95 to 102. Nathan Mugridge, Corporate Lead for Housing, Property and Assets, to present the report, please.
Not quite sure I'm going to follow that, Darren, but anyway. Okay, so yeah, again, in the interest of time, we will just provide a summary of our performance report. So at the start of the meeting, there was quite a lot of talk around the recruitment. So just to be, the slide is sort of just being clear about what our recruitment needs are and what were the existing roles and what's the new roles we got. So the challenge is for us to build the team from 22 to 37 FTEs. The organisational chart you can see there is the property and assets team. The roles in green are what we've currently got within the team. The purple is the vacant roles that are existing, and the blue are the new ones. The real challenge on the existing roles is around our repairs function, so we need to bring in managers into that, and those roles are already out, and they close on Monday, so we are making good progress in filling those. The other one we've got is around the maintenance surveyors, so we have 2 new maintenance surveyors that will be starting in the next month, which will start to resolve that, but we have to go out again because there isn't necessarily the skills out there to fulfil that. On the planned work side, these are a lot of new roles, so this is about increasing our capability to deliver planned programs of work, so this is additional planned work surveyors, but also we've built in some additional stock condition surveyors and a new role as an asset planner, and what they'll be responsible for is taking the stock condition data and actually building out the programs of work so we know what we're meant to be doing in the next sort of 2 to 3 years. On the repairs performance, so completion times, I think it was actually only day 2 when I attended this meeting last time, but I definitely understood the sentiment around this completion times piece and some of the issues around us being confident in that reporting. We have been doing some work to understand what the issues are, and we do now understand them, and we have taken some initial steps, which has led to this 7% improvement in Q1, and we will continue that work moving forwards with additional monitoring. What I will say is the new repairs policy will have an impact on this completion time stuff, and probably to sort of detriment initially until we can get the resources in place to deal with it. It's also worth noting the repair numbers are going down for some reason at the moment. Repairs survey backlog, so this isn't pretty reading at the moment. You know, we have over 200 surveys as a backlog, you know, and at the moment 60 of those are severe HHSRS failures that are existing, well, the survey resource that we've got available are focusing on. The only way we are going to get that resolved is by getting the surveyors in place and completing that work. We are, though, in terms of trying to mitigate that issue, we've set up a new process for requesting surveys, so we have really clear understanding of what those requests are and what the priority of those are, and we're also looking at how we can minimise the work going to the surveyors. Voids continues to be another good news story. So the performance there has been very, very impressive, and it continues to be that. The only thing, say, we sort of it has stabilised, and it's stabilised because we've had to move some resource that was looking at voids over to do disrepair, but we do have a plan around how we can actually make further improvements on our voids. A good example of what we've been working on is trying to sort of sweat the asset, let's say. So you've got a picture there of a pre and post. They are the same kitchen. We've gone in and basically refurbished that kitchen, done the repairs, you know, and left it as, you know, a functional, reasonable kitchen. What this allows us to do is to bring down our void time, so we're not having to do complete kitchen replacements. It also means that we can delay the replacement until when the tenant is in, which will be cheaper for us to do because we can do it on a planned programme, and it also allows the tenant a chance to actually influence what we do with that kitchen. On compliance, again, it's generally been a good position for that. The only thing I would like to highlight is this lift safety. So we have 6 lifts on our estate. 2 of those we had an issue with the compliance on. That is now being resolved, but say it has been a bit of an issue from the technical side on our side that is now resolved, but also on our supplier, and we are looking at how we do our lift compliance moving forwards. Graph on the right there is showing our remedial work, so that is coming down, and we would expect that to continue to come down moving forwards. On the planned work side, so we've, you know, the resource we have got, they are doing some amazing work in terms of, you know, from these pictures you can see the impacts we're having, you know, in terms of the before and after. I think what our constraint is at this moment is we don't have the resource in place to enable us to accelerate those programs, and that is going to be the challenge for the rest of this financial year. And I think that's reflected in these stats when we look at the number of sort of plan work needs that are coming through. You know, we've got 34 potential schemes to look at the moment that we, you know, are on the list, but we've not got round to looking at, and we need the resources to be able to do that, and we will expect that number to increase moving forwards. Just one case study we want to flag up, which is Peasants Flat, which sort of was referenced at the start of the meeting. So this is a block of flats in Beer that has had a history of repairs issues and rightly complaints about those issues related, and that sort of covers block drains, trip hazards, you know, the need for new windows, roofs, and etc. So when I came in and started looking at this, it was obvious that we are not going to solve this through repairs. So we very quickly moved this into the Plan Works programme. We've completed the survey in June. We've done the tenant engagement piece, which has gone incredibly well, and that will be a model that we take forward on all our plan schemes moving forwards. That project is now out to tender, and we'll look to complete it by the end of the financial year. But as I say, this is just one of the many that we, you know, now need to address and sort of take that more whole property approach to, you know, in how we manage our asset moving forwards. And that's me.
Thank you very much. So, any questions? Outside committee first. Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. It's just a question on outstanding maintenance surveys. Could you tell me, does this include, in my ward, there is social housing called K Close, and since 2023 December, we've been waiting for a lamppost to be replaced. It is in the ownership of East Devon District Council. It's been reported numerous times by residents. It's been reported numerous times by me. It's been reported as a health and safety issue. And all that East Devon District Council have done is come along, or a contractor has come along, should I say, cut the post down to halfway and capped it off, which is fine whilst it's summertime. But in the winter time, that light is required. So is it included in the outstanding maintenance to be done, please?
Andy, did you want to come in quickly on this one?
Yeah, if I may, Chair. I think, thank you for the question, Councillor Gazzard. I think this report is very much about the overarching performance of the team, and Nathan's talked into some of those backlogs and the resource that we're looking to get in to support with that. I think if there's any questions about specific cases, if they could come to officers outside so we can talk about that, those cases, that would be really helpful.
Thank you. Will do.
Thank you. Councillor Heath, please.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, my commendations to officers over the Peasants Flats. It's been a bit of an arduous journey, but we've got there at last. And, you know, I think the tenants, and they express their feelings through me, are delighted that there's going to be, you know, a repairs and renovations plan. So thanks for that.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor Faithful, please.
Thank you. I'm not sure if it's a relevant question, but we have a contract with our John Williams and various. When does this run out? How long do we have a contract for? Because we're getting rather close to all this devolution, and I think we're not. It's going to be a hell of a nightmare trying to sort everything out all at the same time, isn't it?
I can tell you it's a long contract.
It's a 10-year contract.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it is a 10-year contract. I think we're in year 6, so of that contract, and yes, it's going to be one of the challenges.
Thank you very much. So coming into committee then, any questions or comments from inside of committee? No? Excellent. This is very good. Look at this. You got away with that lightly, Nathan. So recommendations.
To be noted.
Excellent.
Report to
Thank
be
you very
noted.
much, Giles. So all to be noted. So we can move on to agenda item. No, we can't. We're going over to Catherine.
I just wanted to take the opportunity before we move on to the next three pieces, really, to just, I guess, consolidate what we've heard so far, and thank you to those of you who've already spoken around this. So performance reports absolutely moving in the right direction, and I think it was you, Councillor Burhup, who sort of said about where we were 12 months ago. You know, it's almost looking at a totally different organisation to a certain extent. So I just want to kind of commend the staff team and the managers in this room, and obviously the people that aren't in this room that are out there genuinely working tirelessly to try and turn things around. Earlier on, we also heard on the financial outturn again, you know, what a turnaround from last year in terms of how the budget is being managed, and it's being kind of, works are being authorised appropriately, you know, that we've really got a grip on all of that, which is again down to the hard work and dedication, not just of the housing team, but obviously our colleagues across the finance department as well. The regulatory judgment that we mentioned earlier on that Dan talked about, you know, to come out in a C2 position is just a brilliant position. And if you'd have asked me that a year ago, would we be awarded a C2 at inspection, I probably wouldn't have said, yes, we would. You know, so again, that's fantastic. And as you've kind of mentioned, the TSM reports and the improvements that we've seen in our TSMs as well, it's just, I'm so proud. And I guess before we go into these pieces of work now, which take us on to our next step in the journey, I just want to kind of just take a moment to consolidate some of that really, and just take a thought, take a breath before we move into this next piece. But within that, I just want to thank HRB, because you as a committee, you've been kind of, your scrutiny has been questioned, but actually I would say that actually you've scrutinised us really well. You've led us through this year. You've challenged us where we needed to be challenged. You've asked us to take on certain pieces of work. You've asked us to demonstrate ambition, which we hopefully have when we bring the next pieces forward, you know, and you've been great. You've been great critical friends, and you've provided that for us. And I just personally want to say thank you to all of you as a review board, every single one of you, for the support that you've provided. So thank you. I am going to hand over to Liam, and I think the next three pieces, I just want to say, whilst they do come together, because a lot of the work, as with assets and housing naturally, everything interlinks, doesn't it? Everything is, and I think, Dan, you'd refer to a jigsaw puzzle. It is a jigsaw puzzle, and you've got to have all the right things in the right place at certain times to be able to move forward with certain things. So whilst they are interlinked, I also want to make sure that we are separating some of them, because they do also stand alone in their own right and need to be heard in their own right as well, okay? So I'll stop talking, I'll stop waffling on, but I'm just very proud as a director of this service. And I'll hand over to Liam now. Thanks, Liam. Sorry, Chair. I'll hand over to you to hand over to Liam.
How rude. Can I have the agenda? No, I don't mind, really, honestly. No, just before we do move on very quickly, can I just confirm that any councillors that have joined the chamber since declarations this morning, does anyone have any declarations at all to declare now? Or no? Excellent. This is really good. Thank you ever so much. Now we can move on now to agenda item 16, stock condition survey report. Can be found on pages 103 to 110, to be read by Liam Redding, Assistant Director of Programmes, Investment and Development, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So this report summarises the findings of the stock condition survey that was undertaken by Curry and Brown. As members may recall, Curry and Brown came in and presented the initial findings in a workshop last November. So since then, we've been going through a process to review and verify the accuracy of the results. So that involved a desktop exercise to wade through around about 1 million lines of data, but also myself and Tom and other surveyors going out on site to physically inspect the properties. So the reason we undertook this fairly extensive data quality exercise was because obviously the stock condition data is incredibly important. We just wanted to make sure that it was sufficiently accurate. So that process, it did identify some kind of minor errors and inconsistencies, and we've worked with Curry and Brown just to resolve those. And just to highlight that a degree of error is quite normal when you're dealing with this level of data. So whilst the process has taken quite a long time, it was, in our view, it was the right thing to take the time to ensure the data was correct, which it now is. So turning to the headline findings, In terms of the scope of the survey, Curry and Brown surveyed 3,500 individual properties, which is around about 86% of the stock. The remaining 600 properties were assessed on a desktop basis. Those properties will receive actual physical surveys as part of a rolling programme of in-house stock condition surveys in due course. We also surveyed our garages and community centres and other HRA assets. So in total, we surveyed, or Curry and Brown surveyed, around about 4,500 assets, or about 87% of our asset base. So what the survey gives us is a very detailed assessment of our core building components, so doors, windows, roofs, kitchens, bathrooms, boilers, etc. And it tells us when we should expect to replace these components. So what that gives us is a long-term kind of profile, investment profile for our stock, and that forms the basis of our investment plans moving forward. So the key findings include some kind of metrics around decent homes, health and safety, damp issues. So just to run through those headlines. So in terms of decent homes compliance, decent homes is a national standard which assesses property against the set criteria, and it's either a pass or a fail against that criteria. So we achieved a 93.4% pass rate against a national average of 89%, so our stock is performing very well against a decent home standard. Our failure rate, around about 6.5%, was primarily due to issues of thermal comfort, so inadequate heating or insulation, but it's a low figure compared to the national figure. Moving on to damp. So the survey identified about 370 instances of medium or major damp, and that's about 10.4% of the stock. So it's a bit higher than the national average, which is around about 7%. And the main causes of damp were condensation, that's including condensation, were kind of poor ventilation, damp in bathrooms, penetrating damp from ageing window sills and causes like that. Moving on to the Housing Health and Safety Rating System. So this categorises issues, health and safety issues, into either Category 1 or Category 2, depending on the severity of the issue. So Category 1 being high risk and therefore high priority, and Category 2 being a lower priority but still requiring attention. So the survey identified 45 properties with Cat 1 hazards, and that's 1.27% of the stock. Again, this is a very low number if you compare that to the national figure, which is around 5.1%, so there's some good news there. So overall, the results were relatively positive in terms of decent homes, health and safety, but obviously some issues around higher levels of damp in some properties. In terms of our response to the survey, so all the priority work, such as Cat 1 hazards, were actioned as soon as we had that data from Curry and Brown. And then our focus for investment over the short term is addressing kind of the other issues, so decent homes failures and damp issues. So with damp being a particular financial priority within the current budget year. So as I mentioned, the survey gives us a very detailed investment profile for our stock. So that forms the basis of our longer term investment plans, which are set out in the business plan, which I'll come on to later on in the agenda. But to provide a brief outline, the 30-year investment figure, which comes out of the stock condition survey, is around about 311 million. That's the estimate for the amount of investment required in the stock to bring everything up to a decent home standard and do all the repairs and maintenance that we need. The actual figure, it will be lower than 311 million, and that's for a few reasons. We've made a significant capital investment in the stock since the survey was undertaken, and that's not reflected within that figure. There'll also be some properties that are simply uneconomic to repair, so those properties will be disposed of. Again, that changes the overall number. So just to summarise, I mean, the survey shows us that the stock is fundamentally sound and largely compliant, but it does need some priority investment in certain areas alongside a significant long-term investment. And that's a brief summary, Chair, and I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much. So outside committee, do we have any questions? Councillor Heath, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just under 16 garages, there's an internal interim garage asset management plan. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? Is that available to councillors, and if so, how can this be accessed? Please, Liam. Thanks.
It's intended to be an internal operational document, but I'm happy to share that with you.
Thank you very much. Sorry. No, Catherine?
Sorry, Chair, but also to just state that, you know, it is set to change potentially. You know, I don't want to be held to account to that, because obviously if during the year we find works that are more, that I need to prioritise, I say I, that Nathan and Andy need to prioritise, then the money will go towards those areas. So anything we share, which is why we don't like sharing that level of operational data, is because, you know, then it's got to be seen in the sense that it could fall out of the programme for this year. Does that make sense?
It does, and I understand there are other priorities other than garages, but it's just useful because this has been ongoing for some time, and it's just useful to have a plan, which I know may not be able to be fulfilled, but good if it could be. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Gazzard, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question. On the actual survey of council houses, did the individuals that were going out checking, did they check the gutterings in the properties? My understanding is that they didn't, because if they had, that they might have picked up a few more issues regarding damp and stuff like that. Thank you.
My understanding is that they did look at gutterings and fascias form part of the building elements that they looked at, yes.
Thank you. Councillor Westerman, please.
As far as kitchens are concerned, what's the sort of average age of a kitchen, and when do you expect to change a kitchen or replace a kitchen?
Yeah, it depends, you know, depending on the condition, but the average life is 15 years.
Thank you very much. Councillor Faithful, please.
Thank you, Chair. Of our stock, when we sell it, how much of that money do we get back? It's not tied in, it gets tied in with the government taking out, like, the right to buy, is it?
I'm not sure how that's relevant to this piece.
When you talk about stock, the value of stock, if the stock isn't value to us if we don't get the money.
Nick, I was going to say it will fall under another agenda item, I believe, better. Thank you, Councillor Faithful. Councillor Goodman.
Yeah, just very briefly. Thank you for the report. I'm pleased to see it now out. Am I right in saying this will now allow you, the council, HRB, to really put through a comprehensive way forward for our whole housing stock for East Devon? And am I right in saying that's going to take a little while to do, because that's a phenomenal piece of work, and I do think it's important that people understand that won't be done overnight.
Catherine.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. So essentially, this will now feed into the asset management strategy, which is the next piece of work that now needs to happen, which again, we keep thinking, we'll get through that, and then we get through that. But there's just constant hurdles to overcome. So yes, that'll form part of that, but that will all have to happen, really. We want that to happen as part of the cyclical year, so as in the financial year. So we'll have to take those things into account when we come through budget setting and things like that. So yeah, it will feed into that.
Thank you. So, into committee, Councillor Bellhop, please.
Thank you. Great that we've got this survey now. It's been a long time coming, but we really appreciate having it, and it's a great sort of source of information that will doubtless fuel the decisions that we are going to make in the future, and it's great to make decisions based on such important facts. Just a couple of things. In the report it says there's 45 Category 1 hazards. Have they been done, or are they in work? And so should we do that one first?
say I'll treat this with a bit of caution, but I think those have been reviewed and visited and assessed for works.
Am I just confirming but not complete? They have been started but are not complete.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And if I can also add, Liam, I think I heard you right when you said 311 million would be required to bring the stock up to decent home standard over the course of 30 years. The stock report says that there's 93.4% of our houses currently hit decent home standard, which makes 277 houses not hitting decent home standard, which would equate to us spending £1.1 million on each house to bring it up to date. So what I think you meant to say was in order to maintain our entire stock at decent home standard over the course of 30 years. Is that right?
Chair, that is absolutely correct, yes.
Thank you. So moving on, Rob, please.
just my lips moving. Yeah, but on the building works that are beyond repair, and is there a plan to sort of to sell it off, or is there a plan to build upon these or use as the land itself?
Please note the next agenda item.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Parr.
Yes, can you update us about the sewage treatment works? It says that 10 were rated red, 2 out of 10 have received necessary repairs. So what's happening about the others?
So we've completed works on one sewage treatment works. We've got works going on with one other, and we're about to go to contract for the other, for the remaining that you're referring to get them resolved.
Thank you very much. I don't have anyone else down for any questions or comments, so I will go over to Giles, but I believe this is...
To be noted.
To be noted. Excellent. This is wonderful. So that moves us on to agenda item 17, which is a housing review, housing revenue account business plan update report, pages 111 to 120. Rob, I meant the one after this one for you, just confirming what I said just now. This is to go to Liam Redding, Assistant Director of Programmes, Investment and Development, to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah. Okay, so this report provides an update on the business plan review, which we commissioned Savills to assist with. So the objective of the review was to look at the sustainability of the HRA over the longer term and to develop a 30-year business plan. So the starting point for the review was to build a base financial model based on our current budget and our current position, and then project that forward 30 years, taking account of various factors such as inflation and rent increases and debt repayment. And what that gives us is a base model to determine the long-term sustainability of the HRA. If I can just draw your attention to the graph at graph 1 at point 11 of the report. So if you can see that the black line in that graph is our debt capacity, essentially. So that's how much we can borrow on a prudential basis. The red line is the level of borrowing that we actually require in order to kind of repair and maintain our stock. So what you can see is quite clearly that the debt is way above our capacity. If you then go to the following graph at point 12, this is our revenue reserve position. So what this shows is what happens to our kind of reserve with debt repayment. So you can clearly see that the position turns negative in around about 10 years. So what this is telling us is that the current budget position with the amount of investment required in the stock is unsustainable over the longer term. So in order to move the HRA into a longer term sustainable position, we need to reduce borrowing or reduce revenue expenditure or a combination of both of those factors. So the next stage in our modelling process, or Savills modelling process, was to establish what level of efficiencies would be required in order to move the HRA onto a sustainable footing. So that arrived at a figure of 15% saving or reduction in the revenue budget. So the revenue budget is primarily made up of responsive repairs and maintenance, but also management and supervision. So they're the main areas of expenditure. On repairs and maintenance, this is possibly the kind of easier of the two savings, because as we've outlined, there's going to be a significant capital investment in our stock, so new kitchens, bathrooms, roofs, etc. And this fundamentally improves the stock. So the call on responsive repairs will decrease over time as we invest in the stock. So we see there is potential for a significant reduction in kind of responsive repairs and maintenance expenditure over kind of the next 3 to 5 years. Savings on management and supervision are slightly more challenging. The majority of the management and supervision budget is staffing costs, but there are other elements in there, so decants and day-to-day operational expenditure. In order to deliver these savings, we've developed an efficiency plan which has identified a number of kind of areas for potential savings, but also opportunities to increase income into the HRA, and that is a really key part of the overall equation. When we're talking about savings, one point that's kind of quite important to stress is that a key principle of the efficiency plan and delivering any savings will be that service delivery is maintained or improved. And that could be through changing how we do certain things, artificial intelligence integration, and other opportunities like that to improve efficiency. The plan doesn't include any redundancies, but there may be some staffing reductions in some areas through kind of natural wastage, and where opportunities kind of arise to kind of restructure teams, perhaps change the way that we deliver some services. So in terms of the phasing of a reduction in the revenue account by 15%, we're assuming that's achieved over a 5-year period, so a 2.5% saving annually for the next 4 years, and then a larger 5% saving in year 5. That big saving is attributed to LGR. We think there are kind of potentially significant efficiencies to be achieved if LGR does proceed. If it doesn't, we'll need to review the plan. So turning back to the financial model, with a 15% revenue reduction plugged back in, that brings the HRA to a sustainable position. So if you have a look at the two graphs at point 18 of the report, that shows that with these reductions in revenue expenditure, debt remains within capacity, within our prudential borrowing capacity, and then the reserve position remains positive also. So essentially, this is the outline business plan moving forward. So to put it in simple terms, a significant capital investment in the stock, but with efficiencies in how we operate in order to fund that investment. One of the other elements of the review was to look at alternative approaches to managing and maintaining the stock, and the obvious one is a stock transfer, so moving the stock away from council management to another provider. We asked Savills to look at this and provide some advice on that, and the response that we've got is that a stock transfer wouldn't be a viable option at this point in time. 20 years ago or 30 years ago, stock transfer was a viable option, but in today's world, it simply doesn't stack up. So that has been discounted as an option. One other element of the business plan review was looking at how we approach development and estate regeneration. Obviously, with the right to buy, our stock position decreases over time, so it's important to maintain our stock levels. But also, we do have kind of land and assets that are underutilised that could be kind of used for development purposes. So the question is really how we balance that development and estate regeneration activity with investment in the existing stock. And the answer to that is that we see these as separate activities. So we've modelled our development aspirations on the basis that they must have a neutral or a positive impact on the revenue position. So essentially, they pay for themselves or contribute to the revenue position rather than detract from our ability to invest in the existing stock. So I won't say any more on development because that's part of the next agenda item. But moving on, I mean, in simple terms, the business plan results, so the modelling that we've done to date, which we presented today, is the business plan model. That now needs to be turned into a formal business plan, which we'll do over the coming months, alongside the asset management strategy as well. I suppose one just final point to mention in terms of the model is that we have made a number of assumptions in there. So essentially, it's a long-term forecast. It's a 30-year model with a number of variables which can potentially change over time, you know, through factors outside of the council's control. So things such as inflation and other costs. So it's going to be really important to kind of review the business plan on an annual basis, just to factor in any changes to those inputs. And happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Liam. Do we have any questions from outside of committee? Oh, no. Quick, you got away with that, Liam. Inside committee. Do we have any questions or comments? Oh, Melanie, just beat you to it.
It's just a quick question. Why isn't stock transfer? Why was it? What were the reasons for not recommending it, please? Liam?
Thank you, Chair. I mean, the finances simply don't stack up for a stock transfer. It would need to be a kind of positive valuation, and it's slightly more complicated than that in terms of how debt is structured and the cost of debt these days. And the advice back from Savills is that it's not an option. 20 to 30 years ago, it was viable, but the world has changed. There are kind of greater kind of regulatory and compliance burdens on councils, which impact the overall kind of valuation of the stock. There was also government grants and subsidies to support stock transfer, which aren't available today. So the advice is that it's not a viable option.
Thank you very much. Councillor Burhart, please.
Thank you. So if I understand this right, in order to make the next 30 years model sustainable, then we need to reduce the overall cost, if you like, of the HRA by 15%. Is there any capacity for increasing the revenue side in order to minimise the cost implication reduction? Because cost reductions equals potentially poorer service. Increasing the revenue side maybe negates that need. Thank you.
Liam?
Thank you, Chair. I won't go into the specific details, but there are areas where we're under-recovering certain costs, so there is quite significant potential to increase revenue to the HRA, and that's a key part of the overall plan.
You may come back, Councillor.
Thank you. Not coming back on that, but a different. So again, as we were directed to item 18 on this report, which is the debt graph and the debt capacity once we achieve 15% reductions. Basically, it says, happy days, we can then borrow another £200 million over the course of 30 years to sustain what we've currently got, and we can afford to do that. That's what that graph says, I believe. Is that correct?
Sorry, Chair, that graph number 18, bear with me. Yes, Chair, that's correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Oh, yeah. Rachel?
Yeah, just a quick one regarding point 23, rent flexibility. Seeking regularity government approval to increase rents above CP1+1. Just an idea of what you might be proposing.
Liam?
Thank you, Chair. This isn't proposed currently. What I was trying to outline in that section of the report is what would be the fallback position, what are the options available to the local authority if we weren't able to achieve those 15% savings, and rent flexibility is one option. that we could consider, but it's not being put forward at this stage as an option.
Thank you very much. Excellent. If we have no more questions or comments, I'll go over. I'm so sorry, Councillor Parr.
Yes, following on from Councillor Burrup's comments, this borrowing, I see reference to paying off the interest, but there's no. What happens about the sum, the actual lump sum?
Rob, maybe you could come in at this point to explain. Councillor Parr, you need to take my microphone off.
Sorry.
So it's essentially kind of, if you look at a long-term perspective, you'll have you've got your assets, which will be increasing in value, and then you have your liability, which is your debt, which is also increasing. Your assets will be higher than your debt. As long as you can service your debt, that's fine. The only time you'd ever consider actually paying off any of the debt is if, for example, you were to sell a significant amount of property. That should effectively be a higher value that you would get than your debt, because obviously at the moment, and fingers crossed, and predictions are that house prices will massively outweigh interest rates. So that's what you do. If not, and everything stayed the same and your portfolio was the same, you would just continue on into perpetuity.
Right. And then another concern I have, point 24, says assuming a certain level of Homes England grant and other sources of capital funding. This is all very much a fingers crossed situation.
Liam, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. We'll pick that up in the next agenda item, if that's okay.
Absolutely, that's absolutely fine. So, going over to Giles then, just to confirm that this is for notice.
It is to be noted.
Excellent, thank you very much, Giles. So that moves us on to agenda item 18. This is a build and buy, a housing investment and delivery plan for East Devon. Pages 121 to 136. And again, I will go back to Liam, please.
Thank you, Chair. So I've mentioned in the previous report that it's important to maintain stock levels, but also to utilise our asset base to build more council homes and to regenerate our estates. And just to reiterate, the way we've approached this from a financial perspective is that development and regeneration activity should make a positive contribution to the HRA and not detract from repairing and maintaining our existing homes. So this report is intended to set the vision and the direction of travel for development and regeneration. The report does contain some big numbers, and just to be clear, we're not seeking a budget approval today. We're simply setting out what is possible in headline terms and what is financially viable. So having said that, pleased to bring forward the build and buy plan, which sets out a very ambitious target for East Devon to build and buy 500 affordable homes over a 5-year period. Before I go into the detail, I should stress that 500 homes, it's an aspirational target, and we're setting the bar very high, but we felt that it was important to be ambitious. So in terms of the plan, as the name suggests, it's a plan to build and to buy 500 council homes in East Devon over the next 5-year period. The build element will focus on our existing assets, so garage sites and also estate regeneration opportunities where we've got low density or end-of-life properties which can be kind of developed to a higher density and to a higher standard. We've identified a number of sites, and we'll come on to talk about the site specifics in the next agenda item. In terms of the buy element, what we're proposing is primarily to acquire housing on Section 106 sites. So these are developer-led sites with an affordable housing quota. East Devon hasn't kind of been active in this area previously, but there are opportunities across the district to buy Section 106 homes direct from developers, and we're suggesting that the council should explore those opportunities. Moving on to the finances, we've undertaken quite a significant amount of work to establish whether the plan is viable in principle, and this includes kind of putting the figures into the business plan model, which shows that development actually makes a positive contribution to the overall HRA revenue position. So what we wanted to establish very early on was, whether development was viable. But obviously each scheme or acquisition would be subject to a kind of site-specific viability appraisal. We were just trying to establish the overall viability of the proposal to deliver 500 affordable homes. So the plan will require, a very significant capital investment. We're talking about a figure of around about £100 million. That figure, it includes grant funding, so funding from Homes England, but also we have right to buy receipts, and we've got Section 106 monies as well. So the level of prudential borrowing would amount to around about £60 million. And again, just to be clear, we're not asking for budget approval for 60 million or 100 million today. It's simply saying this is what we believe the council can achieve, and this is the vision should members choose to progress it. I'll stop there. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. So first I have Councillor Faithfull, please.
Just clarify, affordable or social?
Yeah.
Chair, the intention is that the majority of the homes will be delivered as social rented properties. It may be on some sites where we look to incorporate a limited amount of affordable home ownership, but in terms of the rented properties, our ambition is for those to be social rented rather than affordable rented.
Where do we stand being a affordable home provider? Because I can see us as we talked before about having a company or something, but we haven't done. We scrapped all that, I think. But starting getting involved with building to sell is I'm not sure if that fits within our thing, does it?
Chair, we're not proposing a local authority development company or any kind of private vehicle. All the homes will be developed through the HRA. If there are sites where it's practical to include some market housing, it's likely that we would do that as a joint venture with a private sector developer. We're not recommending that the local authority starts building spec housing at risk.
Thank you. Any other questions from outside committee? Councillor Ledger?
Again, not a question, Chair, but I just kind of echoing the words of Catherine earlier. It's just, I think we've even today just gone on that kind of journey that we've had the position where we've seen our financial position for the last year. We've seen all of the improvements that we've got. We've seen the new position that we've got with our stock condition that's allowed us to plan out our 30-year plan. And now we're onto the position where we're looking to the future and how aspirational this committee wants to be, really. And I think if you look at every single plan that the council has, whether it's our council plan, our service plans within housing, or the objectives of the HRB, that all points to building and buying social homes for our tenants that are secure, comfortable, easy to heat. And I think this ticks so many different boxes. And it's a long time coming. It's just really great to see.
Thank you, Councillor Ledger. So moving into committee then, do we have any comments or questions from inside committee? Councillor Martin, please.
I just asked my fellow councillor here if I am allowed to mention pre-meetings, am I? Just double checking.
Yesterday's pre-meeting. The briefing.
The briefing. Yes. So we had a briefing about this yesterday, and I'm really pleased that you've come back and clarified how things stand alone. And I just wanted to come back with that because we were concerned about the figures that were being discussed. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And that might explain as well why we are more content with this coming forward now than perhaps we were, and we're not being so aggressive in our questioning. So I just, please don't think we're not scrutinising. We did an awful lot of scrutinising at our pre-meeting. So thank you for that.
Councillor Burholt, please.
Thank you. So I've got to be careful what I ask for, because I think it's a year ago I ranted and raved about where was our ambition, and here it is. So sorry, everybody. Well, congratulations on such an ambitious plan as well, and putting together something which, you know, for so many years we've heard we can't do this and we can't do that, and actually this is showing a way forward where we can achieve stuff, and you know, this would be fantastic, I think, for the community of East Devon if we can see this commenced and underway. We also have an opportunity right now, I believe, with the central government that's in place, and the indications that we're getting from central government, i.e. the indications of grants being available, that we can, at this window, start to progress big ideas like this and start to deliver some of the much needed affordable homes and social homes that we long for in this district and throughout Devon, I'm sure. Concerns, yes, I have a few. I worry that the numbers are too small, actually. I worry that the 100 million isn't going to get you 500 houses. If you divide the one by the other, it's 200,000 each. That's not a lot of money. Now, I appreciate that we are donating, I mean, it sounds like an awful lot of money, but in truth, in build cost terms, it's not a lot of money. I know we're, in some cases, donating our own land, and that goes to mitigate some of the build cost. I've built a house. I know how much it costs, and it ain't ever how much you think it's going to cost. And if we're going to build 500 of them, I think we can expect some fairly big numbers. I do have it's great to hear that the proposal should be a positive contribution to the overall HRA, which will help with the ageing stock profile that we've got and the affordability of maintaining that. So, you know, the thing dovetails together. Can we just clarify where this stands in terms of right to buy? So if we go ahead and build 500 homes, are they inside or outside the right to buy legislation, please? Thank you. And I want one more point, if I can, and then I'll shut up, which is we are undertaking an awful lot in this council, and we're undertaking it at many levels across many departments, and a lot of it's culminating in legals, and the legal capacity of this council to do stuff is going to be tested to the hilt. LATCO companies, reworked leisure contracts through to contracts of this scale, and we've got Ian Williams coming over the horizon in 4 years' time. You know, this is huge amounts of legal activity that's going to be undertaken simultaneously. Do we as a council think we've got the capacity to do it all at the senior levels? Thank you.
Catherine, just to respond, we will build that into the kind of the planning. That will all be built into the kind of feasibility piece, because we will acknowledge that the resource isn't available in-house, so that's absolutely will be considered as part of that programme. I think on an initial response, I think in terms of as you talk about the kind of £200,000 per property doesn't quite add up, but obviously that is not accounting for the kind of funding that we would seek to get, and those types of opportunities available in terms of scales of economy and all of those types of things. So these are very broad figures. This is in principle kind of conceptual piece that we will then go away and do some of those works. So that is the next stage really, to bring those actual specifics through. And I don't know if Liam wants to jump in because I can see him twitching in the corner of my eye. But I guess the other thing for me is that one of the things that I've been really conscious of since being here is that we've got the Cranbrook and then we've got the second new town, and actually what are we doing within the communities that we're currently serving, you know, and actually they are some of the areas in terms of regeneration that have been not forgotten, but, you know, they've been a little bit left behind. So this for me is an opportunity to look at where we have the most need, to look at where we have maybe those sites that probably do need a bit of additional support and could provide opportunity for us. It's just quite an exciting opportunity really, to kind of not always be looking at the big shiny stuff in different areas, but actually what are we doing to serve the communities that currently exist. So for me, it's an exciting opportunity to look at some of that. I just want to double check Liam's happy with my previous responses. It's always the danger when I jump in.
Sorry, in the right to buy question?
Chair, my colleague Tom Butcher is going to answer that question.
Thank you. Thank you. So they'll be subject to what's called a cost floor ceiling. So they can't be sold for any less than what they've been built for. And that runs, I believe, for the first 10 years of the tenure. So that does protect a degree of interest with the authority, but obviously right to buy then at a point in the future trumps that, and there is that slight running risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, now you. Wang, first, please.
Sorry, that sounds a very exciting project. I just have affordability questions. With the average house price at 346,000 plus, and it's over 10 times of the normal wage, how would the new homes be affordable for the local working families, please?
Liam?
Thank you, Chair. Our plan is for the majority of the homes to be social rented, so the rents are controlled by a formula, so they will be affordable for local people, and it's not tied to the value.
Okay, thank you for the answer.
Sorry, Rob, microphone, Rob.
That's why my finger was up. It's great to see that happening in the present state when we know there's so much need for housing to be built across. I know being a part of the looking at the homeless strategy plan, you know, when there's this conversation that's constantly coming up is, you know, and I feel with other areas, you know, we're sort of scratching, trying to find homes for 20 people when you've only got one home. So that's great that that's happening. Do you think again, I'm going to go back to the figures, do you think this is a review on these figures that might need to come back to the drawing board?
Microphone, Rob.
Thank you. Yeah, the figures that we've provided, they have been based on, so there's an index which is provided for general build costs. So that's what we've based this on. But also some sort of market intelligence, which we've had through, I guess, generally operating in the work that CAS does in affordable housing, having an understanding of what larger scale developments are building out on. What we will do per scheme is come back with the kind of precise costing. So what we want to do is sense check it. Can we build X number of homes and the rough order of costs? If we're building that sort of quantum, what type of value are we looking at? Within that then is further site-specific items. So one of the sites we'll come to, we need to put in some infrastructure first, but also what's this kind of sustainability credentials of each scheme. So we've valued it on building regs compliance being the kind of minimum. But if one of the aspirations is to be better than that, to do something more which is tangibly delivering net zero, then obviously that will cost more, and that will be down to sort of the individual site viability.
Thank you. Councillor Dumper, please.
Yeah, as quite a newbie on this committee, on this board, I'd like to say I'm very excited by the prospect of the build and buy plan, and I would like to to propose the recommendation here, the two recommendations. I'd say, having looked at housing for many, many years and actually working in a district council 30 years ago, I'd like to say we are turning the container ship around here, and I think there will be a lot of work to be done with this plan, as Catherine has told us. But I do feel it is optimistic, it is ambitious, and it may need to be more ambitious, who knows. But I think we are where we are, and let's start the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dumper. So that's a proposal, and I'm happy to second that from the chair. Councillor Parr, did you want to speak? Yep.
Yes, what is happening in the other two Devon authorities who retained their stock? So that's Exeter and Mid Devon.
I don't think we're in a position to be able to talk about that or discuss that. I've just been echoed by that, so we'll go with that statement.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, we can't have any information on that because I think it would have been highly relevant. But I think the crunch for me in this report is paragraph 23. I can see this is a highly changing situation, and our plans will have to change with that.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Parr. Rachel, please.
Thank you. If I've understood this right, I mean, we obviously know there's a huge need for social housing, and it's wonderful that they're proposing 500 houses. Are all these houses going to be available for the right to buy scheme? Because I would think then we're on this continuous cycle for future generations of no housing.
Thank you, Rachel. I believe that was the same question that was answered just now, where they said that they're capped up to the first 10 years, where they can't go below the value of them, and then after the 10-year period, they do enter into the right to buy scheme. So they're protected for the first 10 years, is my understanding. Okay, thank you. So if we have no more questions or comments, we've had a proposer from Councillor Dumper. I'm happy to second from the chair. Do we just want to read the recommendation over to Giles?
Thank you, Chair. So the recommendation is that the Housing Review Board recommend to Cabinet that 1, the build and buy plan is endorsed by the Council, and 2, it be noted that the financing of the plan is subject to the approval of the Housing Revenue Account Business Plan and the 2026-27 budget setting process in due course.
Thank you very much. All those in approval, please raise their hand. Unanimous bar 1. Against? Abstaining? 1 abstention. Thank you very much. So at this point now, we would move on to agenda item 19, which is exclusion of the present public, but I'm actually just going to put in a 5-minute break so people can actually just run the toilet or get a drink, whatever they'd like to do very quickly, because everyone's been